Welcome to DAExMachiNation. Join us as we explore the mysteries of this world. Cryptids, monsters, macabre tales, and horror stories abound. Could they be true? Are monsters real?
Good evening, folks. Thank you all for joining us on another edition of DAExMachiNation. Well, tonight we're going to have a great one for you. As many of you know, that we had a chance to get together for a couple of days last week, and me and Jed here and Doc and my son Noah, we hit some hot spots around the area, and Wyatt was even with us on one of them. But we had some really interesting experiences, and tonight we're going to be talking about those. And before we do, I will introduce my brothers from all around the world here. We got Robby Jed Brains from South Crackalacky. Brother, how you doing?
I'm doing good, brother. How are you?
I'm good. And the one and only Carry Pocket Doc Davis, all the way to us from the Rocky Mountain State. And
Correct.
Doc, how you doing, brother?
Wyatt, I am rolling.
Hell yeah. We've already had a couple people sponsor the channel tonight. I hadn't get a chance. Challen did. I didn't. I missed the other one. Where was it? Where was it? Larry Sharp. He gifted a membership. Thank you, Larry. Thank you for doing that, dude. That is awesome. Ed Peak was gifted the membership from Larry.
Awesome.
Congratulations, Ed, and thank you, Larry. Boys, I'm excited about talking about tonight. It last week was real damn interesting.
That's one way to put it.
Putting it mildly. Yes, sir.
I think we can safely say that we moved Doc from the believer column to the convinced and knower column.
To the
I
no,
think
no prior experience to I seen it.
I seen the damn thing with my own two beady little eyes.
Yeah.
It was an interesting night. But first thing we'll talk about just a little bit before we get started is what I wanted to do is just go ahead and knock out our affiliate for tonight. And being as Doc is here himself, and I don't have to play the commercial, we can hear from the man himself. How about we hear just a little bit about Dark Angel Medical, and I will put the words up on the screen, and then we will continue on as if nothing ever happened. Doc, go ahead.
Right on. So Dark Angel Medical, we sell in the immortal words of Hank Hill, we sell med kits and med kit accessories. Get that tourniquet off your neck, Bobby. You're scaring Ladybird. So we do med kits, anything from your minor trauma first aid all the way up to your major trauma first aid, as far as like even the mass casualty type kits, anything from small personal kits all the way up to mass casualty, multiple personnel kits. But not only do we provide the products, we also provide the training. So we travel around the United States. I literally just got back from Phoenix area last night, going out to Maine next weekend, and the weekend after that, I'm going to be going up to Wichita, Kansas. So check out our website, darkangelmedical.com. Don't forget to use the coupon code CRYPTID20 for 20% off of your products. Training is excluded from that. So, and check out our class schedule if you want to get trained up, learn how to use this stuff, because the time chooses you. So get a kit, get trained, and be the difference. And if you do use one of our kits, it is 100% kit for life guarantee. If you use one of our kits to save a life, your own or someone else, we'll replace what you've used absolutely 100% free of charge. And all of our products are FSA, HSA eligible. So head over to darkangelmedical.com and be the difference.
Packing birthdays in boxes with over 200 confirmed saves.
That is correct, sir. Birthdays in boxes, baby, is what it's all about.
Well, speaking of birthdays, I have some exciting news, and hopefully y'all will look at it like a big old birthday present. But Dark Frontiers, the Demon of Paladuro Canyon is done. I'm waiting for Adam to get me the final cover back. Everything's done. The books layouts are done. All the editing's done. I'm just waiting on that final cover because he'd sent it to me and there were some details I wanted to fix before we went live with it. So if he gets that back to me here in the next couple hours, I'm going to try to get that launched tonight. Usually takes about 12 hours for the Kindle version to go live, and usually within 24 for the print edition. But watch my media, watch watch not only here but Facebook and Instagram and maybe even TikTok for my channels, and we will certainly be announcing when it goes live. If you're on Patreon, you'll probably know about it before anybody else because I can respond to them just immediately instead of just posting and waiting for you to see it. The people on Patreon will get an alert whenever I make a post. So Patreon folks, be watching for that when I put the live link up. So like I said, hopefully with any luck, um, we'll be launching Dark Frontiers, the Demon of Paladuro Canyon tonight. And I am very excited. This one comes in a little heavy, just measuring right at 299 pages. So it's a little bit bigger than some of the other books. But I think you're going to be excited. And just to kind of keep you guys in the loop, I've already started um, Lakeview Man Dead of Winter. And I'm pushing 20,000 words into that project already. I've really been zipping through it the past few days. So I'm really looking forward to getting this one out. The alpha readers are having a field day with it. They love it so far, and I'm really proud of it. I think it's going to have more twists and turns than a street in Lebanon, Missouri. Uh, those of you from Lebanon will know what I mean by that. There are some streets that look like they were laid out by a drunken rattlesnake under a full moon. So I hope you guys will enjoy that. But like I said, Demon of Paladuro should be up tonight, and then I will have news as it progresses of a release date for Lakeview Man, Dead of Winter, and hoping that it'll be within the next few weeks. I'm shooting to have it out also in February. So two big releases in 1 month. That's gonna be pretty solid. And right on the heels of that book is a standalone book that's not going to be part of any series, but it's going to have some familiar characters in it as well as some new ones. It's called Mountain Devil of the Absarokas, and I'm pretty excited to really be firing off with that project. I've already kind of laid some of the groundwork for it, but I haven't actually put any of the words on paper yet, but that's going to change probably tomorrow. And right on the heels of that is going to be Codename Wild Hunt, Gray Lady Down. So I'm pretty excited for all that.
Yes.
Boys, I gotta say I've been really looking forward to us being able to get together on here and talk about what happened the other days. Let me pull up some of the photos and have them on standby.
And while you're pulling that up, just because people have been asking, I'm on chapter 8, I think, that I just finished up, DA, Doc.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I'm finished up chapter 8, so I don't know how many chapters mine's going to have, but hopefully sometime in the middle of maybe about the time Gray Lady Down comes out, about that time I should be done. Me and DA can get her polished up, maybe. You think, DA?
Yeah.
That'll doable.
That's a realistic time frame.
So it's coming along good, I think.
I agree. I really enjoyed what he's written so far. You guys are going to love it.
See.
Karen Polson says her bookshelf's going to need extra support for the new books. Awesome. I'm going to do my best to fill up an entire shelf this year if I can.
Yeah. DA and I have kind of had a gentleman's agreement to
we're kind of motivating each other.
Yeah, kind of push each other, because he started doing all these updates today, and I'm like, dang it, because I can only write at work because I don't have Microsoft Office here at the house, so I can only work on knives here at the house. So I said, dang it, I want the weekend over so I can get back to work and write on the book. He said, we're just going to have to start motivating each other to write. So that's hopefully we'll push each other to get more books out for y'all. And Doc will just sit back and laugh at both of us.
I'm just going to read it.
Move.
I'm just going to read.
Well, Doc is actually going to be involved in the project for Mountain Devil of the Absarokas.
Yeah.
I'm going to be not only is he going to be alpha reading, but he's helping me do a lot of the research for this one. And well, I don't want to give away too much, but some of the characters are not just based on him, but based on real life.
Yeah.
So
Familiar.
I'm pretty excited where this was going to go. Basically, it's going to be think like I said, Monster Hunter International hits Craig Johnson's Walt Longmire Mysteries, and I'm really excited to see that one done.
Yeah, me too. The premise that we laid out is going to be good, I think.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yep. We had a good combo on that.
Because it's going to be DA style, but it's going to be a lot different too. It's going to be something where he gets to write in his comfort zone as far as the stuff he knows to write about, but he's getting to spread his wings and some other stuff. And I think you're going to like this.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of fun to write.
Y'all are going to dig it.
Yep.
I promise.
Because we did some good brainstorming about this in a really good place that really brought some good inspirational ideas to it.
Yes.
I'm looking for one of those pictures right now. I was going to share it with everybody. No, it's in this folder. I just got to find it.
Giggity. Mrs. Moon, Absaroka, Montana. It's
The Absaroka Mountains.
Absaroka Mountains, yeah. Which they have I believe that is a range and go from Montana to Wyoming.
Yeah, borders Montana and Wyoming, and it is on the eastern border of Yellowstone.
Yeah.
Where the heck did those pictures go? Sorry, guys.
That's okay.
How you doing, Doc?
I'm doing all right. My voice is still fried from teaching. So yeah.
Your 16 hours of medical stand up.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much, brother.
Hey, it is what it is. It is worth it.
I'm thankful to have it, man.
I found it. I am going to share this image. See what y'all think of this image. I like that image.
That's a big one.
That is a big old bar.
It's a big bar.
Needless to say, that was at the Bass Pro Shop here in Springfield.
Yeah, we had a good time.
Yeah, we did.
Had some
good barbecue, and then had a good time walking around over there.
Yeah, good barbecue. Oh, show.
So, boy, what should we talk about first? You want to do it in order, or do you want to skip around?
No, that's fine. Yeah, let's just do it in order, man. Start with the first night.
Okay. Well, the first night when you got into town, well, you know, it was one of those things where we really weren't, you know, we weren't sure what time Doc was actually going to make it in, so we kind of had to rush the plan at the end. But first night we went down to Joe Bald, and it was raining, not hard, but it was raining off and on fairly steady the whole time we were there.
Yeah. It started though as soon as we got there and got ready to start getting out.
It didn't rain a lick until we got there, and it quickly evolved into some freakiness. Well, first thing we did is we pulled into the parking lot, or if you guys have read the first Lakeview Man, where they found the deputy's abandoned car and the blood. There's quite a few scenes that happened there in the Joe Bald campground. But when we got there, the first thing we noticed is that even when we were outside the park, we were driving, had the windows down for a little bit, and you could hear all kinds of stuff. You could hear, you know, animals moving around. You could hear cars. You get into Joe Bald, and the first thing we noticed is just how eerily quiet it was. You could hear stuff across the lake, like over on the other side of the cove. But in Joe Bald, it was like everything just went dead.
Funny he uses that word.
Yeah. Apropos.
So we pulled into that parking area and parked right there by that concrete bridge, where the very first video that kind of started it all, where me and Steve were filming when we saw that thing sticking out from behind the tree, and we had my son Noah with us, and of course we were all carrying pews. But once we actually got out of the vehicle and started moving around, we kind of got the feeling pretty fast that we weren't alone. At one point, we were actually like strapped up and heading into the woods to see if we could confront what we knew was up there. And that's when we realized it was trying to work its way between us and the car. So we started back trailing. I tried to take pictures while we were down there, but it was just so flippin' dark. I don't have enough lighting on my camera. I couldn't get any usable images. Everything just looked like I took a picture with the lens cap on. So we didn't end up filming anything down there at Joe Bald. But the whole time we were down there, man, it was just so freaking bizarre. Well, guys, tell about what you guys saw. You don't have to just let me talk.
Go ahead, Doc.
I saw rain. Lots and lots of rain. We had our ear protection on with the amplified earmuffs and everything, where we had communication and everything, and there has a little walkie-talkie built in with a little boom mic, and so we were all communicating. But what it did make it made it to where we could actually hear movement through the trees, and that's what we were moving up the path into the woods, and it heard movement, and there was definitely something moving off to our left, and that's when it was circling, it was paralleling us and circling, and that's when we were all like, you know what, man, this is the conditions are pretty horrible, so let's just do like that. So,
well,
yeah.
Even when we were just driving through some of those darker parts of the park, it was almost like, well, part of it was like we were driving through a tunnel. Even in the dead of winter, the trees are so overgrown over the road, you really can't even see the sky.
Right.
You know, and those, you get back into Joe Bald and you realize that even though there are people that live fairly close by, you are really utterly alone.
Yeah, it's super thick forest, super thick canopy, and like DA said, the oddest thing to me was how absolutely still and quiet it was. You could hear night sounds on the other side of the lake, but there was absolutely no sound anywhere where we were. So it was very, very eerie. So yeah, but I didn't personally see anything that evening.
We saw eye shine on a number of
eye
times.
shine.
We didn't get anything come out where we could get close to it.
Right, and I didn't, and because it was raining so bad, I didn't want to get my thermal out. But that's for another night. We'll tell you about that.
There was a point where I got the shotty shot out. I actually, instead of my pistol, I had the 12 gauge out.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure. I thought I heard
road
something
that goes up to the hill, and we were moving like in a diamond pattern up that hill, with Doc on point pointing out where we needed to cover, and it was getting a little intense. When
that first night in Joe Bald, Doc was in the rear that night. I was up.
That's right. Robby was in point. I'm sorry, had that backwards.
Because that's when I thought I heard something, and when we were getting ready to pull out, remember I was telling everybody to be quiet because I thought I was hearing something walking, and it was hard to pick out between the rain and everything. But I thought I heard something moving during the raindrops coming down too. So
Tammy,
I can't swear to it.
Take bright lights. We do take a number of bright lights. The problem with using bright lights is it destroys your night vision.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, if you've got a really bright spotlight, most critters are going to take off as soon as they see that come on anyway. So,
But while we had some like creepy, feelings and creepy moments there in Joe Bald, we never really had anything come out where we could directly look at it. But we left there, stopped at a convenience store, and we're on our way back to Springfield. And I said, "Hey, you guys want to go down to Blunk Road?" And that's when the fecal material struck the pneumatic oscillator. We drove down to Blunk Road, and Doc could tell you, Doc hadn't been down there before. Me and Robby had, and I'd been down there a few times. But we got down there, and Blunk Road is in what we rednecks in Missouri refer to as the butt crack of nowhere. It is out in the sticks.
I think Doc's exact words was, "Holy shit, where are we?" Something like that, wasn't it, Doc?
We pulled on the road, and I was like, "Yeah, we're going to get murdered tonight." So, it's very murdery.
I thought you liked me, DA. You want to get me murdered?
Yeah, it's very murdery back there.
And we got down there, and it was absolutely, completely abandoned. Nobody down there, which we'd been down there a few times. The last time me and Robby were down there were people down there fishing, but they were out in boats. They weren't up there on the ground where we were. And we were kind of wondering if we were going to find any like mutilated deer like we did the last time we were down there, but there was nothing like that. And we pulled all the way down almost to the water, and we're getting out and kind of looking around. And we didn't really see anything going on other than it was just dead quiet. But we go to get back in the truck to leave, and Doc pulls forward toward the water and plays his headlights out over the river, over the James River, and that's when we saw it. There was something standing in about 8 feet of water, 7 to 8 feet of water. Its shoulders and head was sticking out of the water. You could see it. It was covered with brown fur, and it was coming right at us. And I didn't know Doc could turn a rather large SUV that quickly.
Flip a bitch.
Yeah.
We exfilled the AO pretty quick on that one.
Yeah, I did a J turn rather expeditiously.
It was going against the current, coming right at us.
Yeah. Let me paint a picture. Happy little Sasquatch picture.
Ryan, you come down to Springfield. I'll take you out there.
So we go down. We're looking around. Got out a little bit. We're looking around. It's raining still. I'm like, all right, well, let's head back. So Doc pulls this way, and his headlights are facing out over the river. And he stops. I guess you must have seen it first.
Yeah.
Because you stopped, and you're like, what the hell is that? And of course, me and Noah are in the back seat. Doc and DA are up front. So me and Noah are both like, and as soon as I move over here on the other side of Doc, I'm like, and
then what does Robby do? He gets out of the truck. We spent most of the week Robby wrangling. So I'm just screwing with you. Go ahead, Robby. That was.
It is what it is.
I was like, what the hell are you doing, Robby? I'm gonna get out and take a closer look.
It is coming toward us, Robby.
Here's the thing. Doc thought Robby wrangling and thought me being this. He probably thought this was like, whatever. He's not really that crazy. Fast forward to us hanging out in the room. He's like, dude, you're fucking lunatic. You're a lunatic sometimes, aren't you? And I'm like, yeah. It's what it is. Anyway, so get out looking at it, and I'm like, and it's just one of those things where your mind says, are you really seeing this? And your eyes are like, yes, dumbass, you're really seeing this. And it's like, and I'm standing beside, Doc's still in the car, DA's still in the car. I think Noah had got out to do his Robby wrangling duties. And I'm standing beside Doc, and I'm like, shut up, Robert D.
Yeah, we weren't going to leave him. Run him over maybe, but we weren't going to leave him.
So I look over at Doc, and I said, is that thing moving towards us? And Doc's like,
yes, it is.
He's like, get in. I said, is it coming? He's like, get in. I'm like, but he said, get in the truck.
Well, because by that time we had walked up to the edge of the bank, and we're shining lights out
James
there.
River has got a swift current. It's deep and it's very wide at that point, so it was making its way at us, but it wasn't moving very fast.
Yeah, it was probably a good 50 yards out, and then because we saw the current moving against it, and it was coming towards us, and that's whenever we exited with quite a bit of haste.
Yes. Just Ryan says, on the corner of Butt Crack and Nowhere and Brown Pants Lane, it's where you find the mystical cryptids. You ain't wrong.
Yeah, that's 100%. And
again, there's no street lights or anything down there. This is in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
and it was so flipping dark, I could not get anything on film.
It's blacker than a coal miner's butthole down there, y'all. I mean, it is dark. I mean, it's so far back in the woods they got to pipe in the sunlight. You hear me? So anyway, they didn't know that this little fella right here could drive a big truck like that, and so
it might have said Jeep Grand Cherokee on the side, but it was a Formula One race car that night.
Correct.
So
get in.
We shoot up the road away from the river, about half a mile, and what does Doc do? I need another look at that. Pulls in, turns around, and goes back down there.
I got a 458 SOCOM. I'm okay.
So we get down there, shine the lights out there, and it's even closer to shore now. It is like 10 yards off of shore. It's been waiting against the current coming straight at us. And I'm like, you see it now? Let's get the hell out of here.
I got out went even closer that time.
Yeah, the scary thing was at that point it actually turned and looked at us, and that's where we all got the eye shine was during that time, because you could actually see one eye turn as we were lighting it up, and then the next eye turned and you saw both eyes, and that's where we're all like, okay, hey, you know what, it's time to
you want to guess? I already told Robby this, but Doc hasn't heard this part. I haven't had a chance to go back down there yet, but I've got a buddy that lives down there.
Let me preface it before you say this, because we all talked about, well, what if that was just something playing tricks on our mind? What if it was a stump out there, whatever, and we just imagined it. Now go ahead, DA.
Yeah, so I got a hold of a buddy of mine because I knew I wasn't going to get a chance to get down there till later this week, and I said, hey, I told him about what told him about what we'd seen. I said, will you pop down the end of Blunk Road and see if you see anything like a stump or rocks in the water, or anything it could be? And he gives me a call. He's like, there's nothing in the water, dude. There's not a thing in the water that even remotely like what you were describing. He said there's nothing sticking up out of the water. There's no rocks. He said the point you're describing is probably 8 feet deep.
Yeah, and just to be fair, just to be clear with y'all, I mean, we wanted to, and Robby and DA and I talked about this, and Robby and I were sitting in my room after we got back to the hotel, and I said, I want to debunk this. I want to make sure that if we relay this story, it's beyond it's beyond contestation, so to speak. You know what I mean? And so we want to make sure that we're on the up and up, and we're not just making up a bunch of BS. So it was quite an evening. I'll say that. So
and I even said this because like Doc said, he and I were back there, and we went back to his room and was talking after we got back, and I said, if we had not gone back down the second time, I was 100% sure.
Correct.
That we had seen something. We went back the second time, and I got out and I went closer. The first time I didn't get as close to it. The second time I went closer, and I was like, "There's something out there. There's something alive." But I wouldn't. At that point, I was like, "Well, maybe it's a tree stump with a raccoon or something that just got caught in the middle, out there in the middle." And I even told DA this later on. I said, "Maybe that's what it was. And maybe it was just all we were so amped up and so ready to see something. Maybe we just saw what." And so I told DA, somebody's got to get back out there, either us or somebody, and just verify that that's not a tree stump just sticking out in the middle.
Correct.
That's why he did that. And guy reported back, no, there's nothing there.
Yeah. So if there's nothing there, then that kind of confirms
we seen something.
We seen it, or we saw something, whatever it was. Yeah. But it was big, it was hairy, and yeah.
Because what I saw. Now I'm not speaking for either one of you or Noah. What I saw that first time, that I was 100% sure that we saw, is I saw shoulders and a conical head moving across against the current, because you could see the current.
Yeah, you can see the current.
Whatever.
Like you're walking through a creek, and you're it's like you're fording a creek. You can actually see a wake behind.
Yeah, you can see the James River is very strong right there.
And it was because I looked directly at Doc. I said, "That's coming towards us, ain't it?" He's like, "Get in the truck." And I'm like, he's like, "Get in the truck."
He's like, "Are you seeing what I'm seeing?" And I was like, "Yeah." He said, "It's moving towards us." I was like, "Yeah, get in the truck, dude."
A lot of folks, I saw a comment, we went out looking for Bigfoot. Why did we take off? Well, yeah, we went out looking for evidence, but it's one thing to go out and look for evidence and look for these things. But when it's coming right at you,
yeah.
Honestly, I have no intention of shooting one. So
no. But honestly, I think, like you said, DA, I mean, what did Lene just said, Miss Lene just said, they always follow the water. Well, yeah, because what do? I mean, that's a food source for them.
Mm-hmm.
So we think it might have been out there like getting food. I mean, because there's mussels all over the place, and
found plenty of mussel shells there and in Combs Ferry.
Yep, absolutely.
At 3D, we're pretty united in the fact we think that was a Bigfoot we saw that night.
Yeah, I think it was. I mean, it's just something that. It's just something that, and I like I told Robby, I was like, I was sitting there in my rational brain, my eyes are seeing this, right? But in my rational brain is like, you're not seeing what you're seeing. And my eyes are like, yeah, actually we are. So yeah.
And I kind of got the impression it wasn't coming over to see if we wanted to sign up for Amway.
It wouldn't come over to hold hands in the prayer.
You guys want to come out here and fish with me?
Yeah, we wasn't going to be sitting there singing Kumbaya, that's for sure. So, yeah, it was interesting, y'all. It was very interesting, and for someone like myself who's never had any kind of experience, I've had a lot of paranormal experiences, many paranormal experiences, but never having one like that. I think I might have had one when I was a teenager. Or actually I was in Air Force then, but I can't really get it. And Robin asked, did you get any pictures?
We tried. It's so dark down there, even with our headlamps and flashlights, we weren't getting hardly anything with them.
Next time we go back, I will have some different thermal equipment that's able to do pictures and video. I don't have that in my budget. And so that stuff's not.
I don't have a low light capable camera anymore. I used to have a it was a thermal and low light little camera recorder, but last time Robby and I took it to Joe Bald, the batteries exploded in it.
Yep.
Yeah, I wish we had the budget for all of the good gear, but I mean,
if we'd had good low light cameras, we would have had some amazing footage.
Yeah. Here's the thing, y'all. We're not Expedition Unknown. We're not, finding Bigfoot. We're just three guys that go out and try to have a good time and hang out with each other and try to go out and see these things. We don't have these big equipment budgets like they have to take all these, night vision things and like DA was talking about, low light cameras and things like that. We've got some stuff, but we don't have like really high dollar stuff. So we're not coming on here trying to get our 15 minutes of fame and say,
no, man,
we've got this,
and definitely I ain't blowing smoke up anybody's kill.
We're just relaying what we experienced. If we're lucky enough one day to catch something on film or on camera, great. But if not, if somebody believes us, fine. If they don't believe us, fine. It ain't no skin off our nose either way. We're just,
there was four of us that saw the same exact thing. So yeah, it's
Northwest Native want to know what color the eye shine. Looked green to me.
It looked green to me as well.
that night.
Yeah.
The other nights, not so much.
Well, it was green down at Joe Bald too. What flashes?
That Joe
we saw.
Ball, but that was the same night.
Yeah, it was the same night.
I said other
So
nights.
after we realized it was indeed still coming toward us, we decided to unask the AO, as Doc is keen on saying. And it was getting pretty late, and Doc had driven all day long. So we decided to call it a relatively early night. And Robby and Doc went back to their hotel and dropped me and Noah off here at the house. And we all racked out for the night. But then next day we got up bright and early, and we headed for Combs Ferry. The only other time we'd ever been in Combs Ferry is at night when we went in by boat. That was not possible this time. The water's just too cold to risk going out on the lake in it. But we went in by daylight, and we learned some interesting things. Although we didn't have nearly the experiences we had last time we were in Combs Ferry, but we will show you guys some of the pictures. Most of these pictures are courtesy of Wyatt Estes. Wyatt was with us. Wyatt's an awesome dude. He met us there at Combs Ferry, and we explored for quite a little bit. Sorry, I got the hiccups. And I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to talk about these pictures individually as they pop up. This is the entrance. You kind of see it's a property of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and there's a large, very thick steel gate that is actually closable down into this area. However, when we were down there, it's open. But when you get down to actually the campground, there is a rock and boulder wall of dirt that has been bulldozed up to try to keep people out of there. But it was a little, well, Doc practically jumped over it like what do we call him? Little leprechaun.
Mm-hmm.
But
he's nimble for a little leprechaun.
They were surprised how nimble I was.
Yeah,
He's a nimble little leprechaun.
Isn't he? But this is the sign going in. This is some scat that we found. And yes, scat means poop.
We found a lot of that.
We did find a lot of that. This was probably dog. Not gonna try to make it grandiose or anything. It ain't. This was just probably dog. But anytime we found scat, we made sure we took pictures of it. This one, however, was not. If you can, let me try to zoom in on that. It's been partially degraded by the rain, but you can see the hair in it. This is predator scat, and from the size of it, a fairly large predator. That one's a little out of focus. That's just some stuff we found some debris we found on the ground.
No 3D havoc. It was not my poop.
No, wasn't Doc. This is a little tuft of what we thought was deer. We're pretty sure it was deer fur. It's more deer fur that was a little farther over from it. I'm not sure what that was. Just some debris. Wyatt, do you remember what that was? No, just a guy. We didn't have it. I didn't take anything to collect any scat, so I didn't want to, be poking it because I didn't even have any rubber gloves on me, so we didn't collect any of it. However, I am planning on going back down there here soon. Yeah, that's a piece of bone. That's right. So we were finding deer hair and bone. This is just a great example of the cedar trees that are down there. Most of the cedar trees have had a good chunk of the bark stripped off of them, and like we've talked about on the show on a number of occasions, cedar bark has been used by Native Americans for hundreds, if not thousands, of years as a natural medication. And some of the cedar trees were stripped, 12, 14, 15 feet up, and that's not a deer.
This is a good question, DA. Dr. 45-120 Sharp said, did you find out if the deer harvest was low there this season? That's a great question.
I will see if I can Google that because
that's a fantastic question, man. Dim Bone Scat from you, Janus. Oh, that was funny.
Oh, they said reported harvest for the by the Missouri State Department of Conservation. Yeah, as of the ending in January 15th, was 276,262 deer, but was a 15% decline from the previous year's recording.
Hmm.
129,252 antlered bucks, 23,842 button bucks, and 123,168 does. Linda Bergman just subscribed to the channel. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Linda.
All right. This one's a little out of focus. This is a partial print. It looked canine, probably a coyote, maybe a small wolf or even a dog, but it's definitely a canine print. You can see it right there. Not going to make anything other. It wasn't huge, so I'm not really going to make a big deal about that. That's just a canine print. Like I said, probably a small wolf or a decent sized dog. There's another view of that same canine track. There's another kind of slightly overview. This is one of the campsites. In fact, that is the table lid that had been ripped off and thrown. It is completely torn off of what used to be the campsite. This was the tabletop of a picnic table, and as you can tell, it's 6 to 7 inches of thick concrete by about 10 feet long by about 7 or 8 feet wide, and that thing had to weigh probably 12 to 1,500 pounds, and it is easily 40 feet away from the table from the rubble that it used to be attached to.
It was about 17 yards away. That's a good distance.
So that's the tabletop we've talked about finding in the trail before.
Yeah, there's no drag marks or anything out there.
And if you look at the pieces of concrete that are busted, good luck finding a tool mark on any of it, because we've looked. We looked to see if there might be sledgehammer marks or even jackhammer marks to give any indication that maybe it was the Army Corps of Engineers that came in and destroyed these, but there are no tool marks on any of these. Look how twisted up that rebar is. That's a pile of that's a pile that used to be a campsite. That's another angle of the same pile. And some of those chunks of concrete weigh, several hundred pounds. Like this one in the foreground right there. I don't think there was 5 of us there. I don't think the 5 of us could have moved it at any distance at all, much less carried it, to a different part of the area.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look at me standing on that table. I mean, you can tell how big because that was me standing on top of that tabletop. That shows you how big that thing is, because we had people asking us last time, well, how big actually was it? Which is why I stood on it so Wyatt could take that picture. That's a big table. I mean, I could lay down on top of that and it'd still be room on the top and the bottom of it.
Robby and I are close to the same size. He ain't a little feller, so that just give you any idea how big that place is, that tabletop is. And there's no way the group of us could have moved it, not without heavy equipment.
No.
This was laying in the grass. That's the reminder thing that is on the lanyard that attaches to jet skis, the keys on a jet ski. It was just laying out there. Don't know why.
Yeah, about 150 yards from the water. Not strange in any way.
No, not at all. There's part of an old barbecue grill. Another chunk of concrete just randomly, well away from any of the campsites. There's another one that's destroyed. The tabletop is laying next to it. It's been basically snagged off of it. And you can see in the background over here another one in the same condition, just absolutely destroyed. And this is in sharp contrast to Joe Bald. Most of the campsites in Joe Bald looks like you could go in there with a DR trimmer mower and some hedge clippers and prune back the overgrowth and set up a campsite. This is some of the pictures that we took in the water. This one's a little hard to see, but you can kind of see the heel right here. It was tough to take a picture through. It was about 6 inches of water, but the actual toes are up here. This looked to be about a 16 or 18-inch bare footprint in the mud in the bottom of this puddle.
And not bears in. Rah.
Yeah, BARE, not BEAR. Yeah, as you can see it just a little bit better there. It's a slight angle on it. There you can kind of see the ball of the foot and the heel of the foot and the toes up here. Let me zoom in a little bit so maybe you can see it. Toes right here. There's the up by the ball of the foot and the heel down here. There's kind of a actually there were more than one tracks in the mud in this. So this is a different track, but you can see the outline of the track right here. It was mostly just the heel. We didn't really see much definition on the toes, but you could see the heel very well on that one. There's another example of where a partial print was observable. And again, this is in about 6 inches of water, so we couldn't cast any of it. This was a very large canine print. That we did see, some dogs in the area, but none of them were anywhere near this big. This was a good sized canine print. There's another one right there. This is Doc. You found this, didn't you?
Yeah.
You want to describe it?
Hey, it looked like an old three-toed dinosaur print there in the soapstone, like it had been fossilized there. It was kind of cool looking. I don't know. I thought it reminded me of some of the dino prints I had seen. I've seen up in other places here in Colorado. So, yeah, you can see it, the outline where that thing is, right up in there. Yeah, it was just neat.
Yeah, it was just a cool find.
Nothing cryptid about it. It was just interesting.
There's some more scat. This could possibly be dog as well. There's one of the picnic tables with the top missing off of it, and the benches, and a very large tree that's pushed down.
There's something there with a lot of anger. That's for sure.
Some anger issues.
And here we go.
Here we go. Yet again, we find a chunk of a deer in a tree. This was in a different part of Combs Ferry, and we tried to find the tree where we found the Missouri tree shroud, and the other part of the deer couldn't even find the trees. We looked for it as we hiked past that area, but we couldn't find those exact spots again. But this we found quite a little ways from it. We were fairly early into the expedition there, and that's a good sized chunk of deer flesh. Just kind of drooped up in that tree and left for us to find.
Yeah, apparently the deer on Combs Ferry like to jump up in the trees and skin themselves.
There's a pretty standard Nalgene water bottle, pretty much almost identical to this one right here. So you can kind of get an idea on how big that thing is. It was a pretty good sized piece of flesh. And you can see how, that's a piece of bone that's still in it. How it was just drooped over the tree and left there. Kind of interesting.
Them bones. This is only a flesh wound.
This was part of either an old observation deck or maybe a signpost. I don't know, but you could see where it had stuff nailed to it before. It was just an old part of a tree, kind of rotten. There's another destroyed campsite.
Yeah, and 3D. That was it. Go back to the tree or the picture of the flesh in the tree, DA.
Yeah, those branches are way too small to support.
That ain't holding no big
cat, let alone a big cat.
I mean, birds maybe could have got up in there, but obviously, that's too big for anything other than a hawk or an owl to carry. So
Yeah, those were probably about the diameter of a quarter.
yep. And I saw somebody said something about typical bear behavior.
A bear
I
can't
think
even
I think
climb
he
that
was
tree.
being sarcastic.
Facetious.
I hope so, because I don't see a bear doing something.
Yeah, yeah.
There's another torn up part of the and
What?
this was just stuff that was like on it. It was like just some gunk. Because
Sorry
when
if
I
I'm a
first
little
saw
bit.
it,
Sorry if I'm a little bit, but we've been called out because we, for safety issues, left the area. So sorry if I was a little bit.
yeah, no
You know what I
worries,
mean?
Robby. Well, I first thought this might possibly be like an area that had been struck by a sledgehammer, but when I got over and looked at it, it was just like transfer. It was like mud that had been scraped up against it or something. It wasn't anything that was actually part of the concrete. It was just on it. There's part of a bench that's just basically been tossed aside. Those concrete benches that as part of those picnic tables would be about 8 feet long, and they have two of these big, massive columns. That's obviously been snapped off, and so is the column because the column's taller than that. It's got to be tall enough for you to actually sit on it. So that not only is the column been snapped, so is the bench itself, and that takes a lot of force.
Yeah.
Another smashed campsite. And there's one that's remarkably intact. Kind of get you the impression on how big that concrete is. If you take a look there, uh, you notice that the benches are gone, but the tabletop is still in place. And this was out in the woods, and I don't know what it was. I got no clue. It was just some structure that was out in the middle of the trees.
Yeah, that was odd.
I have
I
no
thought it was
idea
an
what that was.
I thought it was an outdoor fireplace at first, but it wasn't.
And I thought that it might be like a water fountain, but there's really nothing on there that would show where water could have come from. It's just like this little, like small obelisk in the trees.
Yeah, it was weird. Karen has a good question. Wouldn't the Corps of Engineer break them up and remove them if they went the trouble of breaking it up? Yeah.
They would have taken them out of there. And like I said before, I've said on some of these shows, land on Table Rock Lake because it's a very popular tourist destination, and people from like other states are looking to build vacation homes down there. A half acre of land on Table Rock Lake will go for north of $100,000. And between Joe Bald, Big Bend, and Combs Ferry, there's probably 300 or 400 acres of land that they will not let anybody touch, despite land values on that lake being at a premium. These are just some down trees. This one was kind of interesting. I told Wyatt to go ahead and take a picture of it because we don't get a whole lot of snow in Missouri. I mean, this last couple of weeks ago, we got like 6 inches, and that was a lot for us. But when I was a kid, we used to get a lot of snow. But in the last 10, 20 years, we haven't hardly got any snow in the wintertime, mostly just, like thin layers of ice. But this was bent complete. This tree was bent completely over, and it's not that old a tree. Um, and there was nothing on it. It was just bent over. It was just odd. I went ahead and had White take a picture of it just to kind of have it for a frame of reference. And over here behind it, you can see another virtually intact picnic area, but most of them are just destroyed. There's some down trees. There's that bowed tree. Another angle of it. This is a partial track, and it's yeah. Oh, Robby, did you find this or did Wyatt?
We both were finding stuff, so I don't remember if that was one he found or one I found, to be honest. I mean, I found about 5 or 6. He found about 5 or 6. I think Doc found 4 or 5, and
Yeah, I saw some, and I'd called Wyatt over, and you could actually see where it was walking off of the paved path, and it was walking through those leaves.
I think I could be wrong, but I think that's one of the ones that you called me and Wyatt back on dock because you were showing me that. I think I'm not 100% on that, but it does kind of look like it was that was right there off the path where you were talking about. It kind of swept around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not 100%, but that's what that looks like. So, but there was stuff like that all over the place. We were finding multiple partial tracks and a few full tracks, and I mean it was a good little area.
Yeah. We didn't see anything or anything like that, but we definitely saw a good many tracks in there.
Kodiak says how high in the tree was it? It was probably about 7, maybe 8 feet. It was above head level.
It was way above me.
And yes, a deer could jump that high, but again, that tree was so small. It was barely more than a sack. It wouldn't have held any kind of weight at all.
No.
But yes, a deer can jump that high, but jump that high and leave part of its hide and bone in a small little limb. Because that's the whole. I mean,
right.
That's just part of the hide and a bone that's up there. I mean, a deer's not going to jump up there and tear off part of its flesh and.
Right.
Yeah, it's just weird. I mean, we're not trying to say that this was definitely Bigfoot or this was definitely Dogman. It's just weird that we found it in the tree with no visible means of support for a large animal to have put it there. This is another cedar tree missing a lot of bark, and this shot was taken at kind of an upward angle, so this is pretty high off the ground, like in the 10-foot range. There's some that's stripped off at a lower level. Deer do that as well, but so at the lower levels, I'm not where it could be just about anything. But when we start getting bark missing 8-9 feet up the tree, yeah, that's a little unusual. More bark off the tree. There's a remarkably intact picnic area. They're just out in the middle of the woods grown up around it. There's a snapped off tree branch. Another one. There's one was broken off as well. Another partial track. And if you look right here, you can see the heel and some definition of toes up here. So this is probably 17, 18 inches long. Not enough to cast, unfortunately. It's just a partial track. It's not the entire thing. That's the same track. There's another partial. That's a pretty good example of the partial. You can see the wide part of the foot up here and the heel over here. But the ground was fairly hard. So there was really not any depth to the impression. It was more just kind of how it had disturbed the soil. More scat, possibly a dog. Although it does have hair in it. You can see the hair in it.
Yep.
So it's a predator of some sort. More scat. And this one actually this one got kind of broken open. It had hair in it and some what looked like small bones. And that's a big old ropey turd. That was a good sizing. Probably 8 inches long.
Yeah.
There's some more bone. Another partial track.
I'll be right back, guys. Excuse me.
Some of you deer hunters out there are probably going to recognize this, but I've seen this in deer scat, but I've never seen anything that looked like it might be human or it may be even canine. These are persimmon pits. I've never seen a dog eat a persimmon.
Yeah, I've heard that possums eat them, and I've heard
Possum ain't dropping turds like
right.
that.
That's what I'm saying. I've heard possums like to eat them, and but
This one's just loaded with them.
they're not like stuff that normal predators, coyotes, foxes, wolves, things like that. That, as far as I know, they don't eat them.
Justin, yeah, I know these aren't the highest quality photos, but we're operating on a shoestring budget. We go out and do this stuff with just the stuff we have. If you want to send us a high end camera, we'll damn sure use it. But this is just taken with our phones because it's what we've got.
Yeah, that stuff gets expensive. That's what I was trying to say earlier. We go out because we enjoy doing this. We're not out there to try to get our 15 minutes of fame. We're out there because we enjoy doing this. We enjoy doing it together and hanging out. And, we try to bring some entertainment to y'all of what we found and things like that. But we're not, Expedition X or Destination X or all these stuff, whatever 500 different shows that Josh Gates has done, or Finding Bigfoot, or we don't have that kind of money. But, so we do with what we got. We dance with what brung us.
Somebody said something to check my email. No, we didn't see any unmarked white vans this time, Mrs. Moon.
And we actually even said that when we drove in to Joe Ball that first night. We're like, wonder where the 24-hour service van is.
Just a guy. We thought about that with the scat, but like I said, I didn't bring anything like any Ziploc bags or anything to collect anything. I am gonna be going back out there. Probably just me and Noah next time, or maybe we'll see if Wyatt and Richard want to meet us out there. But I am gonna go back in during the day again and probably put my drone out over the area. But I want to go back in, and this time I'm probably going to collect some of the stuff.
But that picture right there that's on the screen, I believe to the right of that is where we were standing that night when we were waiting for Richard to come back and pick us up, right?
Yeah. Space Time, I got your email. I'll have to look at it when we're not live. I'll take a look at it and then get back with you. This is a good example of that low wall that they've bulldozed over the area. This had to have been done with heavy equipment because it runs the width of the parking lot to keep you out of the lower end of the campground. You couldn't drive over it, but you can climb over it. There's the backside of it. There's this great big pile of rubble and dirt right there that blocks off going down where we actually found the partial deer and the tree trout the last time we were down there.
The Missouri tree trout.
And I do believe that's about all of them I've got. LT Jenkins says, if I'm off, I'll go. Hey, you're welcome anytime. You can bring me Desert Eagles.
Eagles.
Robin Grogan says, do you know anyone who can check the poop? Maybe. If I reach out to Doug Highcheck, he might check it for me. But other than that, I don't really have any sources. I might be able to reach out to Melba Ketchum, or Dr. Meldrum, but I don't have any contacts with anybody that does a lot of lab work. But I will ask around. The 3D says, Doc, was that a Dark Angel koozie?
Yep.
Hell yeah. Let me see if I can find a couple of the pictures that I've got on my camera roll. So I know I took. These are images that, just a couple of images that I took on my camera. This is the old guard shack that's in there. That's Noah. He took pictures with with his DSLR. I haven't had a chance to transfer him off there. There's the little wall, little better view of it. That's my car over there. But you can't get a car over that. If you had a rock crawler or a really tall, high set 4-wheel drive, you could probably get over it. But my little SUV wasn't climbing that. Space Time says, you guys ever heard of Bigfoot sightings near Lancaster, California? Nothing springs to mind. But if you want to look to see what you might have in that area, try using mapsquatch.com. That we've got a pretty good database of sightings.
I think we got a lot of good evidence sightings at Combs Ferry, and we talked about the first time we went out there was at night, and because we were standing right next to that guard shack that first night and never even knew it until y'all went back out there during the day.
It was even there.
So, and you and I kind of talked about this, DA. From the law enforcement standpoint, if you work in a town and all you've ever worked is nights, and all of a sudden you work days, everything looks completely and totally different. And that's exactly what it was out there, because we were sitting there trying to figure out. I was like, okay, we came, yeah, but we were trying to figure out where we were at when we saw the deer in the tree and the Missouri tree trout and all that stuff. We knew we were in this little clearing, but it was hard to figure out exactly where we were at because everything looked so different during the day. And I think we found a lot of good stuff out there that we probably wouldn't have never seen had we not gone back during the day. So I think
CD Squatcher, it's entirely possible. We're pretty sure that's what put it up there. But again, we can't say with that. We didn't see it put up there, so we can't say with certainty that's what it is. But that's kind of what we're thinking, that it might have been some sort of territorial thing.
Yep.
Miss Lene's going after the coyotes. Get him, Miss Lene.
So, I mean, I don't know, Doc, that was your first time out there. What did you think about Combs Ferry?
Creepy.
There was another one that literally the only thing you could hear was the wind going through the trees.
Yeah, and that's Doc looked at me. He came up over to me when I think you and Noah were looking at something, and Wyatt was taking a picture. Doc looked at me. He goes, "Do you hear anything?" And I'm like, "Nope." It's creepy. I said, "Yep, that's exactly the way it was that night we were out here."
It was extremely quiet, extremely creepy, extremely creepy place. But I would not mind going there at nighttime as well.
I want to go back down there either right after dark or right before dark and see if they're leaving that gate open. Because if they're leaving that gate open, that opens us up to a whole different type of exploration.
Yeah.
Going in by boat's all well and good, but when the boat backs away, you lose your storage, you lose extra gear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Unless you're keeping the boat right there on the shore.
Yep.
3D says no. You can't camp there. There's it's posted no camping, and supposedly they lock it up at night. Although when we were there pretty close to dusk, and it never got locked.
But and I don't want to say what we talked about out loud. Y'all will, and Wyatt will know what we talked about. It would be very easy to do what we talked about doing, and I wouldn't mind doing that.
I wouldn't mind either.
Because it would be really, really, really easy to do that and be. And I think we probably should try to look into maybe trying to do that.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Great minds.
I'm
I'm not saying that's what we were talking about.
But as interesting as all the things we found, not only what we saw down at the end of Blunk Road, and all the tracks and different things we found in Combs Ferry, as interesting as that was, it doesn't hold a candle to what happened to us later that night in Moon Valley.
Yeah, we were
Those
kind
of
of
you
saving.
that have read some of my books know I've used Moon Valley a few times as a setting. It's this local valley down in the middle of nowhere in Dallas County, Missouri, about 5 miles from Bennett Springs State Park. It's right on the Niagara River. The Niagara runs through the middle of that valley, and it's always been kind of a weird place. Most recently, it made the news back in 1999 when a pair of fellows went to prison for being cannibals. They would abduct people and keep them in a cage like an animal, then string them up and gut them and cut them up like a deer. And the rumor is they weren't the only ones involved, but they were the ones that went to jail. And after they got arrested, before the highway patrol could get down there to search the house, it burned down. I know, shocker. House burnt to the ground before they could come in and look for more evidence. So the two guys would not talk. They're both in jail. But the rumor was that there were other people in that vicinity who were partaking in the processing of long pig.
It was deer meat, DA. What are you talking
Yeah.
about?
Yeah, DEAR, not
Yeah,
DEER.
Yeah.
If y'all want to look at the story, just look up the cannibals of Moon Valley, and there's stories all over the media.
Or Dallas County Cannibals, I think.
Look
Yeah,
up Cannibals of Moon Valley or Dallas County Cannibals. So
Yeah.
any of that is a legit place. And I took Doc right to the spot where the old place had burnt down. And it'll make the hair on your arms stand
Yeah,
up.
it is.
Even now it's creepy.
It is an eerie place, man.
And
Eerie
here's the
place.
really weird part. Just down the road from the old cannibal house, set into the woods about 10 feet off the road, is this absolutely stunningly freaking creepy dollhouse village just set up off the side of the road. It's got a sign that says something like Annabelle's Playground or something like that. It has its own mailbox, but you can't. It's behind a fence.
I
And
said,
when
there
we
it is.
found it,
And Doc said, nope.
there it is. And Doc's like, nope. Just kept driving.
Didn't even slow down.
Nope.
Yeah, Doc, we didn't even want to see it.
I was sitting behind Doc and I was looking, and DA was like, Robby, look for it it's on that side. And I'm like, there it is. Doc said, nope.
But that's just the weird, some of the weirdness. Wait till you guys hear the rest of the story as
Paul Harvey
what's
would
his
say.
name? Oh, Paul Harvey would say. So we get down in the valley. We get down there. It's already dark by the time we got there because we'd spent the day dicking around up at Combs Ferry. So we get down there. It's me, Doc, Robby, and Noah. And we've got these. All four of us have a set of these, which are actually noise amplifiers. But if you discharge like a firearm, it's hearing protection. And it also has a built-in walkie-talkie. So we were using these to stay in communication and to amplify night sounds around us. So we parked on the bridge, that low water bridge right there over the Niagara River, parked on that concrete slab, and we got out. And, the first thing that happened was we started trying to do some calls. I tried the tongue pop thing, which I don't know if my pop filter is going to keep it out. I think you guys have heard me do it before. Can you guys hear that?
Yep. Not as loud as it, but
I wasn't doing it because I had my hands up and everything. But I did the tongue pop thing and didn't get a response, which happens. So then Doc did this really good hoot owl call. And Doc's hoot owl call is convincing. If I heard it from the other side of the river in the trees, I probably would have thought it was an owl. It's a really good owl call.
Thank you.
Nothing. We don't get a response. So Robby does a wolf call, and Robby's pretty damn good at the wolf call. Robby also does a really good like Bigfoot whoop, but he does this wolf howl, and we hear it echoing down the valley. And no sooner than that had faded, we got Doc's owl call back, and it was the exact same call, and that's not an owl that's native to Missouri. What kind of owl answers a wolf? That's just one of the weird things.
Because Doc was standing beside me, and when I finished, and we got that, Doc looks at me like, "What the hell?"
It was like I said, an owl's not going to answer back a wolf call,
right?
So it was an exact imitation of my owl call.
Even did the same warble at the end. It was an identical call to the one that Doc had just made. So, yes, 3D Havoc says a wolf owl, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
But, right after that, we started kind of getting the feeling like we were being watched. Like when we first got there, it didn't really feel like there was anything in the area. So we're all kind of getting the heebie-jeebies like we're, something's watching us. And I've got a really bright headlamp that sets on my forehead. I had it on with those ear pros over, and I'm listening, and we could hear something splashing in the water, like it was like something walking in the water, but it was far enough away from where our lights ended that we weren't finding anything. And I'm like, there's something out there. And then Doc gets out his thermals and starts looking around, and that's when things started getting weird. Doc, you want to talk a little bit about what you saw?
Yeah, so I got my night vision out. It's a Gen 4 white phosphorus. I got those 8 years ago, 9 years ago, and I got a clip-on thermal imager. So on on the left objective, I have the clip-on thermal imager, and on the right objective, it's the night vision too. So it's an overlay in your brain. So Robby and DA were ahead of me, and I'm scanning off to the right, and there's a parking lot as you go off the bridge up the road to the right. There's a parking lot up there, and I saw something in the thermal outline, a heat signature that was rounded, poking out from behind a tree. That was probably about, what would you say, DA, about 75 yards out?
Maybe not even that far.
Maybe not even that far. And DA, I said, I see something off here to the right about 1 o'clock from my position. And I said, hit it with your white light. And as soon as he hit it with white light, he got eye shine. And then it disappeared. Well, it disappeared. So I was like, okay, whatever. But then I looked back in front of us, and I think it was more than 50 yards out that I saw this. And I was looking back in the woods through the trees, and I'm getting thermal artifact off of the trees, off the outside of the trees. And behind these trees, I see a figure, humanoid, rounded / conical head, big shoulders, and it was moving. And then I said, wait, I got something, guys. I got movement, 12 o'clock right in front of us, about 50, 60 yards out. And that's about the limit of my thermal. And right as I said that, something else came out from behind it, slightly shorter, and had the same exact profile, maybe a little pointier head shape it looked like. And I said, light it up back there in the woods and see what y'all get. And what did you get, DA?
Right in the exact spot he was pointing, I've got a larger and a shorter set of both green eye shine. And as soon as we lit them up with the trees, Robby and I both saw him like do this number and get back behind the tree, because my headlamp's pretty damn bright.
Yeah. And then they started advancing forward towards it. And then I heard movement off to my right and looked back, and what had been behind a tree earlier off to the right was heading towards the creek bank, and we were away from the truck. And I told them, stop, back up. whatever is going on here is trying to cut us off, I believe. And so we all started backing up. And then we went back up the road, back towards the freaking creek town. And we went to the Bennett Springs, I think the fish hatchery thing up there, turned back and waited there for a few minutes and came back down. And when we got back down there, we heard things behind us. So whatever it was, it crossed the creek. And then to get confirmation, I looked back in the woods in the same area, and I walked up to the woods even closer than I was before with my thermal and my night vision. And in the same exact area, there was absolutely nothing there in that shape. It was all straight up and down trees. There was nothing there. And we estimated back where it was probably close to 8 feet tall. And the other one was probably close to about 7 feet tall. The one on the right-hand side was kind of crouched down, so I couldn't get a good idea on that. But I wish I'd have had the ability to take pictures with a thermal. That's the reason I'm going to hopefully be able to invest in something down the road and get something that I can actually take still photos and video with, because I was trying to get confirmation off of that I had seen something. And then the second time we came back, there was nothing there, but then they were behind us.
They make a pretty good thermal camera that plugs into the port on your phone. But it's a few $100, so I'm going to have to wait to get that.
Yeah. So definitely
a pretty good job. Definitely
interesting. And knowing that what I saw was confirmed by white light, it was pretty amazing. And
that night we got back after we dropped DA and Noah off. We get back to the hotel. Another night, me and Doc are sitting there talking in his room. And if I had $10 for every time I heard him say this phrase that night, we could have bought anything we were wanting to buy, because he's like, thermal don't lie.
Yeah.
Thermal don't lie. Thermal don't lie.
Doc was a little freaked out.
Yeah, it was because
Doc was up here.
Yeah, I mean, the Blunk Road thing was one thing, but when I had my thermal out and you could actually see something moving through the thermal, and it was a humanoid shape that was obviously far bigger than a human. It was, and then the confirmation that when we went back there and there was absolutely nothing there other than straight up and down tree trunks. That was, it was, again, your eyes are sitting there telling you one thing and your brain's trying to refute it and say, no, man, you ain't seeing this. You crazy as hell.
It's easy to second guess yourself when you don't have other witnesses.
Absolutely. And then when I got him to shine the lights, and they got the eye shine in the same location, I was seeing two figures on thermal. That was all I needed to know, man. But I will say this, those things are smart. And I do believe that we were getting flanked, because when we came back down, Robby heard movement off to his right through the water. DA heard moving off to the left through the water, and we went the opposite direction. So we all got back in the vehicle and got there.
That was about the point where you're.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that at first, when we first got there, they didn't really care that we were there. When we started making those calls, we got their attention, and then they were coming in.
Yeah, and also,
I think if we'd had the shofar that night, we might have been in for some.
And I think
we might have been in for some excitement.
And Herman Best, he said, I think they hunt in packs of 3 or 4. We talked about that. We think there might have been at least 4, if not 5. So it could have been a family unit type of thing. And Steve had an excellent observation to this when we all went to Steve's Pub and Grub, and we're talking about it. He said, maybe they think it was a Dogman, because Dogman and Bigfoot have beef, and whenever Robby did that, when Robby did that call, they were like, oh, hell no, and came in. But either way, I saw what I saw. I know what I saw. I'd swear it on a stack of Bibles on my mama's grave. And it was honestly one of the most interesting experiences. It was scary. And little Patty, was it creepier than Dolltown? It wasn't that it was so much creepy. But it definitely got my heart rate up.
It was intense.
It was definitely very intense.
Just a guy who yaps says, DA, remember that theory about dogmen knowing when Bigfoot mimicked, vice versa? When Wyatt was on the show, they didn't respond until whoever made the canine call. And I think that's what brought him in. I think it was the canine call.
Exactly. Because because whenever the owl call came back, it was probably a good 200, 300 yards away. And then within just 5 minutes or less, three to 5 minutes, they were on us. And then I agree. I believe they were trying to separate us. That's when Robby and DA started pushing forward. When I saw the movement off to the right.
Well, when Doc started saying he saw movement, saw heat in the trees, Robby and I both immediately draw and start that way. And we got about 50 yards away from Doc and Noah. Noah was covering Doc, and we'd already left the bridge and we're like up the gravel road heading for that spot. And that's when Doc saw the one that was like going through the parking area heading for the water. And if we'd have gone much farther, it could have easily got between us.
We could have been cut off, because I think there was something doing a left flanking maneuver as well. So it was definitely interesting, man.
And when we came back that second time after we went up the hatchery and came back, while y'all were over there, because that was right at the point where your thermal was starting to die because it's eating through your batteries quick. If your thermal could have been on, I tell you that what I heard over there on the left side of the bridge, or to our left, there was something right there at that big tree.
Yeah,
something snapped about 5 or 6 limbs.
I agree, and it was right outside the range of my thermal. Like I said, my thermal was going in and out because it was dying then, but it was just outside the.
I heard a number of rocks hit the water too.
Yeah, and we didn't get anything thrown at us, and I was actually kind of surprised we didn't get anything thrown at us.
Yeah, me too. Well, when that tree snapped, that's what I thought was going to happen. I thought we were going to start getting stuff thrown at, but we didn't stay much longer than that because your thermal was dead, and you were like, "I can't see." We're kind of, kind of compromised.
And
I think
we were coming back down into the valley for the last time. I kept feeling like we were going to get a rock in the windshield.
I was too.
Larry Berlin wanted to know what type of shofar I have. It says Bar Shesit Reback. I don't know what that means, but it's what my son can play it. I can't.
Yeah, it was just, like Doc said, it was intense.
Yeah. But our big thing was this. I was big on this. You can ask DA and Robby. I was like, the big thing is we've got to stay together and keep some close proximity. And when they started making tracks and they were moving at a pretty fair clip, I saw the movement to the right, and I said, I was like, get back, pull back, man, pull back here to me. And I went up at that point and me and Noah went up at that point to kind of meet them to provide any kind of support. So it was interesting, man. It was very interesting. And so, and I was like, well, y'all just cover our rear while we're making our way back to the truck. And we got in the truck and got the heck out of Dodge. Discretion is sometimes the better part of valor. So.
Right. One thing that I thought was interesting is even in the dead of winter, just how thick the Ozarks woods are.
I see what you did there.
Dead of winter?
Yeah.
Just how thick those woods were. Because we got plenty of like coniferous and evergreen trees as well. So even when the leaves are off the bigger trees, it's still tough to see very far back into those woods.
Yeah. And this is a very rudimentary sketch of what I saw.
Robby and I made it up to about where the word road is.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
Brent Noah's not feeling well tonight. He's resting.
Yeah, when I showed that to Robby, Robbie's like, that's exactly what we saw, dude. Your face, because we were in the hotel room when I was sketching that out, because we were drinking a much needed beer.
And I came home and had something a touch stronger.
Yeah, and I was like, when I sketched it out and I gave it to Robby, and he was like, his face kind of paled a little bit. He was like, "Holy shit, dude! That's exactly what we saw, man." So
most times I have a glass of whiskey, I'll have 2 fingers of, whatever I'm pouring that night. But that night I had 4 fingers and a very generous thumb of some really good Irish whiskey, because my hands were kind of shaking once I'd come down off the nerve.
Yeah. He was pacing that room. Thermal don't lie, dude. Thermal don't lie.
I was coming down off of it, man.
Yep. And he was like, why don't they put a Where's the pad? Where's the pad and pencil? That always put.
I know. I was pissed. They didn't
He
have any
was looking
paper.
through all his stuff, trying to. Finally, he decided on the napkin, which you just saw, and it was comical seeing him go. But as soon as he drew it, I was like, and handed it to him. I was like, oh crap, dude, that's it exactly. I mean, he had to. I mean, it was almost even to scale, and he snapped a picture, sent it to you and Noah.
You know what? I had a video of my son playing the shofar on my phone.
I'll be right back, guys. I got to tell you good night.
But I should have played that. For those of you who aren't familiar with what the shofar sounds like, here's a short video of my oldest son playing the shofar.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure
What are you doing, sweet girl?
You're not muted, Doc.
I'll take care of that. I got him.
Thankfully, he didn't say anything else more embarrassing.
Are you naked?
Keith, you got to tell him he didn't mute himself. And he's really enjoying the show so far. But so far, so good.
So far, so good. Hillary said, well, that just woke my cat up. She's on full alert.
But, you know, if we'd have had that out there that night.
We might have got hairy.
I'm about to say, it might have got a little spicy. It might have got just a bit spicy that night.
We might have been testing out, the veracity of 1911 versus what you were carrying at the time.
No, I had my 1911 that night too.
So it would have been 0.45 going down range from both of us.
Doc had 10. Me and you both had 45, and Noah had 9. And then
I had the 12 gauge in the truck, but I never got it out. Not at Moon Valley, anyway.
No, but we still had. Yeah, we had a couple long guns in the truck, but
Richie, that was a shofar. Robby, Bobby Presnell, yeah, that's about a 5-second time delay from when you're actually hearing us from when we spoke.
But yeah, that night was, and I'm glad Doc had the night vision. I'm glad he got to see, because you and I both have had our. I would have loved to have seen something more than just Eyeshine, because we've seen Eyeshine plenty of times. I would have loved to have seen what he saw, but I'm glad he got to see it, because I've had plenty of
using the old BFRO system. I would still consider that thing in Moon Valley a Class A, because Doc actually saw them on the thermal. And while we only saw Eyeshine, we saw the Eyeshine in the exact spots he'd seen the shapes on thermal.
Yep, and that's what he's talking about. When he drew that and handed it to me, DA, and this was before he even sent it to you and Noah. When he handed that to me, I'm like, holy shit, that's exactly, because you and I were like shoulder to shoulder. You were on my left and I was on your right, and we were shoulder to shoulder. And that's why, because I only saw that one set of Eyeshine because that tree was in between me and the smaller one. I saw the bigger one.
I never saw the third
yeah,
one. I saw those first two.
Well, because we were focused on because it was the two that we were looking at were off to our left, and the other one was kind of almost behind us. Because we were, you said we were right there where it said road. That thing was actually like either right beside us or just a little bit behind us.
Well, the entrance to the parking area over by the boat ramp is pretty far from the low water bridge, and we were passing that pullout spot.
Yeah,
that's when Doc said, "Hey, you got movement to your right. You guys might want to back the hell up." And that's when you and I looked at each other like, "Oh shit!" And instead of just turning and beating feet, we just kind of walked backwards with our weapons up.
Yep. But when it, like I said, when he drew that, I was like, "Hey, that's exactly." And I told him, I said, I didn't see that smaller one because of where that tree was. I guess it had already moved back behind the tree. You saw both sets, right?
I saw both sets of the ones on the left, like
Yeah,
the image Doc was showing. I
yeah.
did not see the eye shine of the one that was over in the parking
Yeah,
area.
but because me and you were looking at the two that were off to our left, but I couldn't see the second one because of the tree that it was at. It had already got behind it, but I saw the bigger set, the one that was about 8.5, 9 feet, whatever it was. I saw that one, and I saw it move behind the tree when you turned your light on. But
and
it was
when we were going up the valley on the other side, I'm pretty sure it was the bigger one that we could hear, smashing branches off in the woods. As I tried shining my light out there to see if I could get eye shine, whatever it was far enough back that I couldn't even pick up any sign of it. But it was pacing the car up the side of the mountain valley.
And I kept waiting for, like, when you told me to kind of, you said for not to watch the road, me to watch up those bluffs up beside us. I just kept waiting for a big boulder or a rock or something to start rolling down that hill.
There's a road for that to happen on. That's a good one to do.
I was just like, we're about to live out a scene from Wild Hunt or Apex Predator or something. The road's about to be blocked, and we're about to have to shoot our way out of here.
Yeah, that got a little tense.
Yeah. And then what did we do when we got up to the top of it? Turned around and went right back down again.
Right back down. Well, we went up to Bennett Springs for a minute, but then we came right back down, which it wasn't very far. And when we were driving down that gravel road going into Bennett, Doc's like, I swear to God, you guys are going to get me killed.
He said, I thought you liked me, DA.
Yeah, that was a pretty intense night. And I still like I was saying, that one place, I'm not going to call anybody out specifically, but that one place where all of the old cars are parked back there, like a parking lot, like they were just set out there. They're not smashed up. It's not a salvage lot. There's just cars, a whole field of cars that are parked out there. And I told Robby, I said, wouldn't it be cool if we could get in there without getting seen by the people that own that land and get a copy of some of these VIN numbers and run them and see if they associate to missing people, because they think that the cannibals had operated down there for probably 30 years or more.
Yeah, I would love to.
Yeah, I got a feeling if we tried to get any VINs out of there, we'd probably get shot at.
Well, every time we go by there, no matter what time, it feels like when we pass that one house, it always feels like somebody's out there watching.
Mm-hmm. Roxanne, it would be a great time to have had Will Gray Eagle with us, but he wasn't there. Miss Lene's probably out there blasting coyotes with her rifle. Her and Jim are probably sitting on the porch shooting coyotes. No, 3D says we're going to be doing a reading tomorrow. You down for it?
What we're gonna read?
I was thinking we'd do Heart of Iron.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Okay. See if we can, raise that one up a little bit. Hey, while we're waiting for Doc to get back, it'd be a good time to talk a little bit about getting the next book out. And I'm hoping if Adam's got that to me, and I haven't seen any alerts, what's the word I'm looking for? Any alerts, or not alerts, but any messages pop up to say he'd sent it. So he hasn't got the cover back to me yet. But if he gets the cover back to me tonight, we'll launch it tonight. And that'll be Dark Frontiers, The Demon of Paladuro Canyon. And
3D, no, I can't do it post Super Bowl because.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I can't stay up that late. Sorry.
How would y'all, and I know the alpha readers have seen it and the folks on my Patreon have seen it, how would you guys like a little sneak peek at the cover? Well, this isn't the complete cover, but this is the completed concept. How would you guys like a little peek at the cover for Demon of Paladuro Canyon? If you guys would like that, I would be happy to show you.
I think they probably.
Robin says, "What's the name of that place with the cannibals?" I can't remember. I want to write it down. You can do a Google search on Dallas County cannibals or the cannibals of Moon Valley. And either way, you're going to come up. Roxanne says, "DA, are you going to read any Apex Predator books sometime?" Yeah, we'll definitely get to those too. Oh, we got some folks wanting to see the cover. Well, let me pull that rascal up for you. I'm going to have to go back to my email and get it.
Kodiak, yeah, my first encounter was in the 80s when I was a kid.
This is without any of the logos or anything on. This is just the cover image. Doesn't have the Dark Frontiers logo or the DA logo or any of the text. This is just the actual cover image itself. So let me know, guys. Let me know what you think of this. I don't, Greg. I don't know if it's a kudu horn or what. It's let's see if it says on it. It's got a little label on it. There's the Doc's back.
I said, where'd that come from?
Yeah, it doesn't say on it what kind of horn it is. Sorry, but yeah, this is the proof of concept for the cover.
3D, yes, I actually do think it was better to have things like that happen when you're younger. I think your mind will accept it a lot better. We've talked about that many times before. I think if you have some of the, and Doc, you can answer this. You know, as a kid seeing it, I think I was able to process it and adapt to it, and it didn't affect me as profoundly.
Yeah, and that's absolutely correct, Robbie. Because we're not as prejudiced in our thoughts and our you know our what we're thinking. You know our social mores and things like that. So we're more open to things, more receptive to things, and and it's also a little more malleable and flexible at that age too. So we're not so stolid and stayed in our ways as we are when we get when we're adults. So yeah, it's yeah, I agree with that.
Well, it's kind of like you were telling us a story about that the little girl that had the imaginary friend named, was it Penelope?
That was my sister-in-law, and then my daughter. Yeah.
And then your daughter later had an imaginary friend that had the exact same name
At the house. At the same house.
At the same house. And when they reached a certain age, they stopped seeing Penelope.
Yeah. Crazy, ain't it?
I think children are more apt to accept not only the supernatural, but things that, you know, because they're still curious, they're still discovering. You know, they haven't got it set in their mind that all that crap doesn't exist.
100%
a lot of people
concur.
close their mind, and children haven't done that.
Yeah, 100% concur, man. Yeah, I think it's great. So, yeah, it's interesting. Did Steve make it out with you guys? And no, he was not able to.
Steve worked like crazy the whole week.
He was working.
We got to meet up with him one
night.
We got to meet up with him for one night to eat, but that was it.
Yeah, we went to the unofficial Steve's Pub and Grub. It's a pub here in Springfield called the Bent Penny, but it kind of has the same feel. So we all met there and ate and had a few beers.
And it was very good.
That place is always good.
Yeah, it was.
Hillary says, "Did Steve?" Oh, yeah, that was the same question. I'm sorry. I was looking to see if I missed any. Yeah, I don't think I have.
I got to disagree with you, Native Tracker. I completely and totally understood what I was seeing.
I
And
think
I think
Trolls
that
are
was
more accepting of things.
I completely understood what it was. And I told people what it was, and people told me I was crazy and stupid, but I still believed what I saw, and I totally understood it. I'm not saying everyone does, but I did. So,
Hillary, you're right. Steve does work like a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest, but he said he's been working an average for the last, I think it was like 7 or 8 months, an average of 60 to 80 hours a week.
Good Lord.
He said, but that's they're now starting to get their staffing levels back, and he's going to cut that way back because he said, I have no work-life balance. I just have work. But he's working tonight, and he said after this week it should start dialing back.
Good.
yeah, but at least we got that one night when we all got to hang out.
The medical sucks.
Yep, Roxanne, that's about how old I was. I was about 8 years old.
What does that mean, Brent? Oh, the medical field, yeah. It's extremely demanding, dude. Yeah, I'm glad I don't work bedside anymore because it was extremely demanding.
Hillary, I'm sure he's got some amusing stories to share on his channel now that he's going to have some breathing room and can actually post videos again. You know, we never even got to make it down to Smittle Cave.
Yeah, it was horrible weather that day.
It rained on us almost the whole time you were
here. Yeah. It was crap weather the whole time.
And then DA texts both of us when Doc and I are heading home, says, "You fuckers leave and it's 68 and sunny."
Yeah, exactly.
The day you guys left, it made it almost to 70 degrees and was clear as a bell. Like, son of a gun.
Yeah, that was funny.
Just a guy. I've reached out to Fred and told him whenever he's ready, just let me know. I don't want to push him. I know he's still doing his own thing, but he told me he'd let me know when he was ready to come back. So, you know, I'm just waiting on him to let me know when he's got time. Robby, you should reach out to Jesus.
I'll do that tomorrow.
You need Jesus.
Everybody needs some Jesus in their life.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Good thing I got him on. I can call him on the phone.
And if any of y'all have never been to Palo Duro Canyon, it's 26 miles south of Amarillo, and it is a sight to see. It's the second largest canyon in the U.S. next to the Grand Canyon. So it's very, very
beautiful.
Beautiful, beautiful place, man. Absolutely.
I've ridden horses in Palo Duro Canyon.
Oh, that's cool. It's a very, very cool situation. Anyway.
But in this new book, you're going to see, well, of course, you're going to see the familiar faces of Declan and the Nightmare Hunters because it's a Dark Frontiers novel. But there's a couple characters in there that might surprise you that haven't made it into a novel yet. And in the new Lakeview Man, you're going to see some faces that you might have seen in some short stories that haven't made it into a novel yet, but they're getting their debut. And I think you guys are going to be happy with the new Lakeview Man. It's coming along really well. I'm really enjoying the writing process on it, and I've done almost almost 15,000 words in 24 hours. Well, just almost 48 hours, closer to 48 than 24. So not quite 2 full days. I've done almost 15,000 words.
It's coming along nicely.
Really nice park.
It's got a few twists and turns in it.
It's got some.
And it's
Fun
brings
time.
back a character that there's no middle ground on. Character of Connor Logue, people either love him or hate him. There is no middle ground. Robby's on the second part.
I like him. Robby,
like
you
him.
don't like him?
From the first scene I wrote with Logue, I had intended in that scene that he was going to cross a boundary and Will Grey Eagle was going to kill him. But it was like 4 or 5 lines of dialogue. I'm like, I like this son of a bitch. I got to keep him.
Yeah, I do too.
He's a good asshole when I need an asshole.
I stand with my major. My major don't like him. I don't like him neither.
Major says I can't like him.
I'm team I'm team Connor, man. I'm team Logue.
He's an interesting character.
I'm team Clark all the way.
Angela Monroe got it right. The vampire everybody loves to hate.
Yeah. See, Sonya's like, I actually really like Logue. See, I do too.
But see, here's the thing. And
you like that sparkly dude, don't you, Robby? That sparkly vampire.
No,
Robby don't like sparkly vampires.
Werewolf guy. You know that. But here's the thing. Yeah, okay. And some people have said that, Amanda did what she did, and that but he turned her. She had no clue or no control over what she was doing. He knew what he was doing when he turned her. He knew what was going to happen when he turned her. He's an asshole. He did what he did. Yeah, maybe he saved her life, but he's an asshole. He did what he did.
Yeah, she would definitely be dead. Because the howler hit her, I called Doc as soon as I was done writing.
Oh yeah, dude.
I'm like, is this fatal? And he goes, yes, it's fatal.
And that is 100% correct. But he knew what was going to happen, and he still went along with it and did what he did. He's an asshole. I don't like him. And
Robby makes no apologies. He don't like him.
No. Yes, but Robby, he's our asshole.
That's true. He is on our side. Or is he?
Maybe. Maybe one day him and Jed will have a talk.
Gary, I don't know. I haven't heard from Cam in a while. I know he's been real busy. I need to give him a call this week just to see how he's doing. I'll see if I can get a hold of him and I'll see if I can find out if he's planning on doing any more of the books. Sonia says Amanda could leave as long as Logan stays.
Oh my Lord.
Sonia, have you read I know you're one of the alphas. Have you read the latest update? Logue may not be as good a guy as you think he is.
Like I said, maybe
He's absolutely right. Logue loves Amanda in his own way.
Maybe Jed and him get to have a.
He kept calling her a kushla, which is an old Irish term meaning my love. Sonia says something's up. She smells a rat. Well, you know what? We've already talked about everything we did. It's coming up on 10 o'clock.
A.R. Harris says it. Just because he might be on our side doesn't mean we have to like him.
You got a point.
Clark don't like him.
No, Clark definitely do not like him.
Well, yeah, that's for multiple reasons there.
Yeah. Jed's commanding officer don't like him. Jed don't like him. And I'm pretty sure Declan probably wouldn't like him either. You just going out on a limb there. I'm pretty sure Declan would not like him.
Well, if you guys don't mind hanging around for a few minutes while I flap my gums, for this rather auspicious occasion, and to kind of wet everybody's whistle a little bit, how would you guys like to hear the opening chapter to Lakeview Man Dead of Winter?
Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Let's see
I'll help you.
what the crowd says.
Yes,
Everybody
on it.
just
We
covering
know
his
everybody loves
just
Gray Eagle.
covering his vamp butt. That's funny.
We know everybody loves Gray Eagle.
Gray Eagle's got his own fan club.
I know.
It's all ladies. Oh, we got some yeses.
I think Doc's got a fan club too of ladies.
Yeah, I think he does too.
Jed always has to pull him out of something though.
I'm a goodwill ambassador, man. What can I say? I'll help you. I'll help you with that one if you want to, DA. If you want to read.
Okay. I'm just going to do the first chapter.
Okay.
I don't know. Let me see how long it is.
Yep. I agree with you, Linda.
It's about 10 pages long.
Okay.
How about I read to bottom of page 8, and you take it from there because it goes to 13.
All right. Let me see here.
So you'll start at the top of page 9.
All right. Let me open it up here. Yeah.
Actually, make it at the top of page 10, because it actually starts on page 4, so that's like 6 pages apiece.
All right.
Okie doke.
Top of page
Folks,
10. Copy.
Here we go. Lakeview Man Dead of Winter. Chapter 1. Roadside Relief. How blessed are some people whose lives have no fears, no dreads, to whom sleep is a blessing that comes nightly and brings nothing but sweet dreams. Bram Stoker. 11:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, February 21st, JJ Highway, near Blue Eye, Missouri. 119 to dispatch, said the deputy as he slowed his patrol SUV to a stop. Show me out at JJ Highway near the old Goodall Cemetery. Copy 119, said the cheerful sounding young female dispatcher. What's your status? Over. Just a quick well-being check, he said. I'll be just a minute. That made the dispatcher smile. She knew that was code for him getting out to take a piss at the side of the road. There were 10 codes for using the bathroom, but many of the deputies didn't use the actual codes anymore. The main reason was that they varied from department to department. No one could agree on one set for everyone to use. That caused a lot of confusion when multiple agencies were involved. Use of the old 10 codes had fallen out of favor, but some of the old-timer officers still like to use them just to confuse the younger ones. Deputy Rick Bastian climbed out of his Sloan County black Chevy Tahoe and involuntarily shivered in the frigid night air. It was snowing lightly, with just a thin powder covering the ground. While the snowflakes were large and seemed to fall impossibly slow, it wasn't heavy enough to give them more than a good dusting of snow unless it increased. The weatherman had said they should expect 1 to 2 inches before morning. Bastian was just a touch over 6 feet 4 inches tall, and he wore his blonde hair cut close to his scalp with just enough to comb on top. A quick flick of his intense blue eyes told him that there were no threats around, at least not in the immediate area. He'd driven through this area many times over the last couple of months, but it never ceased to amaze him how quiet it always was, even during the day, despite how close they were to Table Rock Dam. The air was very cold, and the snow was accumulating on the ground and the surrounding trees. It was eerily quiet on this lonely stretch of road, but that's why he picked it. There were only a few houses out here near the old abandoned campground, making it an ideal place to relieve one's bladder when you didn't have the luxury of stopping at a convenience store because everything on this side of the lake closed by 9 o'clock. Combs Ferry campground had been shut down for decades, and Bastian didn't really know why. Sure, this area was remote, but camping spots on Table Rock Lake were at a premium during the warmer months. However, right at this moment, he had more important things on his mind. like the pressure on his bladder and his growing sense of urgency to relieve it. He stepped off the asphalt and into the ditch on the opposite side of the road from the cemetery, and his black tactical boots crunched on the loose gravel. He didn't want to be disrespectful to the deceased, so he figured it'd be better to relieve himself well away from the graves. As he unzipped his fly, he felt the cold rush of air on his bare skin as he began to urinate. He closed his eyes with pleasure as he released the pressure that he'd been holding for the last hour. Steam rose from where the warm liquid splashed onto the ground and ran farther down into the ditch. He sighed contentedly as he finished up and zipped his pants. He glanced around the area. As he glanced around the area, he suddenly felt as if he was being watched. He couldn't place it exactly, but he just knew that someone or something was watching him intently. Slowly, he reached for the ProTac HL5X light on his belt. He clicked it on, and the 3500 lumen lit up the night, and he began panning it back and forth along the line of trees. Nothing moved, and he didn't see anything that looked suspicious. Still, the feeling persisted, and it made him uneasy enough that he put his hand on his pistol and released the safety rocker on his holster. He slowly drew his department-issued Glock 22 40 caliber pistol and brought it to the low-ready position. "Hey, someone out there?" he called. "Sloan County Sheriff's Department." Only the wind whispered through the pines and answered him, and he felt uneasy. Something wasn't right, and he knew it, but he just couldn't put his finger on what it was. Instinctively, he began backing toward his still-running patrol vehicle. He didn't have a call for service in this area. He'd just come here for a quiet place to relieve himself. Therefore, he had no reason to stick around. He scanned the area, then moved quickly back to the SUV and opened the door. As he started to get in, he heard something. It was faint, but it sounded like a woman crying. He froze in place, not shutting the door and straining to listen. After a moment, he heard it again. This time it was definite. He heard a woman weeping, and he was sure of it. There was no mistaking that sound. 119 to dispatch, he said. "Go ahead, 119, replied the dispatcher. "Do we have any other available units in the area?" he asked. "Hold one," she replied. "Let me check." After a moment, she came back. "Deputies Martin and Case are dealing with a domestic call near Galena," said the dispatcher. "Morrison is responding to a trespassing call near Kimberling City." 119, this is 133, said a calm voice with a soft Irish accent. "Show me en route to your location. ETA 5 minutes. "Copy, 133, said Bastian. "Thank you." "Dispatch copies, 133, said dispatch. "If you need additional, I'll have to contact Tanner County. We don't have anybody else on duty tonight." "We'll handle it," said 133. 199, what's your status? "I'm good," said Bastian. "I'm not moving until you get here." "Copy that," said 133. "On me way." Bastian got in and shut the door. He cracked the window to listen to the sobbing. His instincts were screaming for him to run to find the source, but something was nagging him from deep in his subconscious. Something about the situation was wrong, and he knew that danger was near at hand. He couldn't put his finger on it, but something just wasn't right. The primitive part of his brain was screaming a warning that his more modern brain just didn't seem to understand. 4 minutes later, another Sloan County Patrol SUV pulled up beside Bastian's, and the driver braked to a stop. Deputy Connor Logue climbed out of his vehicle and glanced around. He instantly felt something wasn't right about this area, and was glad that Bastian had called him instead of just going after whatever he'd seen or heard. "Thanks for coming," said Bastian, exiting its vehicle. "No worries, boyo," said Logue, grinning. What's got you all riled up?" "I heard something," said Bastian. "Sounded like a woman crying." "Where?" asked Logue. "Please, for the love of God, tell me it wasn't from inside that bloody graveyard." Logue remembered some of the stories from Ireland when he was a boy. He briefly wondered if Bastian had ever heard of a banshee or the dark fae, perhaps the Bayanihi or the washerwoman, who was an omen of death. "No, it was out in the woods," said Bastian. "Well, that ain't no better now, is it?" said Logue with a shrug. "What do you think the chances of there being a woman out here in these woods at this time of night?" "It's unlikely," said Bastian. "But that's what I heard. I mean, what else could it be?" "What else indeed?" muttered Logue. "I guess we'd best go check then." "Let me get my rifle," said Bastian. "Good man," said Logue. "I'll get me own as well." The two men took a moment to slip on their plate carriers and grab their patrol rifles. Bastian had a Black Rain Ordnance Fusion 308 chambered in 308 caliber, while Logue had a Rock River Arms Devastator chambered in 458 SOCOM. One of the upgrades that Sheriff Amanda Sanchez Clark had made since she'd become sheriff was to give her patrol officers heavier firepower when it came to long guns, especially after all the cryptid encounters her department had faced in the last year or so. Logue pulled the charging handle on his rifle and activated the red dot on his optic. Bastian followed his example and chambered around in his rifle. Logue quickly added 6 more magazines to the pouches on his plate carrier. "You expecting trouble?" asked Bastian. "Aye," said Logue. "Always, aren't you? If you ain't, you should be." "Well, I am now," said Bastian with a smile as he added more mags to his carrier. "Boyle, you need to make sure that every time you get out to check something," Logue began, "that you're treating it like it's dangerous, because if and you don't, it'll get you killed." Bastian wasn't a complete rookie, but he had only completed his FTO program just a few months ago. He was still learning what it was like to be on his own. Thus far, his time in uniform had been uneventful, but Logue knew that was likely to change at any time. Sloan County was infamous for the bizarre and dangerous incidents involving creatures that weren't supposed to exist. "Yes, sir," said Bastian. "All right," said Logue. "Good lad. Now stick close to me and don't go wandering off. There's no telling what's out in these woods." "That's right," said Bastian. "You worked here when that thing killed all those people a while back." "Aye, I was," said Logue, "and I don't want to be running into anything like that ever again. But then again, I ain't always been the luckiest of fellas when it comes to that sort of thing. But even with without the bloody monsters, Missouri's got plenty of beasties that'll kill you if they get the chance. Mountain lions, bears, wolves, coyotes, and bobcats, just to name a few. And let's not forget the greater North American meth heads." "Great," whispered Bastian, looking around nervously. "Now keep your lip button and stick with me," said Logue. "Let's see if we can find your crying woman. Which way was it?" Bastian pointed inside. Logue winked at him and then began heading off in that direction. He knew from the map of the area that he'd pulled up on his computer while he was driving here that they were on a peninsula that stuck out at Table Rock Lake. It was surrounded by deep water that was cold enough to kill someone in minutes. So whoever was out here didn't have many places to go. Doc, you want to take over there? My throat's really raspy.
Many places to go? Okay. There are only a few houses in this remote part of the country or county, and only one between them and the lake. Logue hoped that that was the source of the crime, but his instincts were already telling him something otherwise. Something was tugging at the back of his subconscious, warning him that there was imminent danger nearby, and they were already in a precarious position. Going into the woods was only going to make matters worse. This entire area was thickly wooded and surrounded by water on 3 sides, leaving them little in the way of escape routes. If there was something out there, it would be easy for it to cut off their only means of escape. If it disabled the vehicles, then they were in a lot of trouble. This was the type of place that the locals referred to as the butt crack of nowhere. Logue started toward the trees when his instincts kicked in and he froze. They were still 20 feet or so from the edge of the woods, but something warned him not to go in there. Something was looking at him and he felt it. Something cold and calculating was sizing them up, and Logue's predatory senses were kicking in. Then as fast as it had appeared, it was gone. "What the bloody hell?" he whispered. "What?" asked Bastian, not sensing the danger. Logue's senses were far sharper than Bastian's thanks to his vampiric nature. Only a couple of people within the department knew he was a vampire, and he planned on keeping it that way. While he liked Bastian, he wasn't in any hurry to have that conversation. While being one certainly had its advantages in this line of work, it also had severe disadvantages, not the least of which was the hunger, which couldn't be ignored forever. Although he had found ways to deal with it that didn't involve killing people, however, sometimes he still felt the incredible urge to drain someone, especially if it was a person he felt deserved it. The top of that list included murderers and people who hurt children. But Sheriff Amanda Sanchez Clark frowned on it, so he kept it under control. Well, mostly. 133 to dispatch, said Logan to his mic. "Go ahead, 133, replied dispatch. "Show 119 and myself exiting our vehicles," said Logue. "We're proceeding on foot into the woods east our parked cruisers." "Understood," said dispatch. "Do you require additional units?" Over. "Negative at this time," said Logue. "But if we don't contact you in the next few minutes, you should get someone en route." "Copy that," said dispatch. "We're flagging you code 1 for additional units." Logue knew that Code 1 meant whenever someone was available to come. Code 2 meant step it up, and Code 3 meant to move heaven and hell to get here now. He hoped it wouldn't come to that, but he was beginning to suspect there was something more sinister in these woods than just a crying woman. Logue slipped his fingers onto the forward grip of his rifle and activated the Streamlight ProTac 2.0 tactical light mounted on his Picatinny rail, and the 2,000 lumen light pierced the darkness. He began sweeping the beam back and forth along the trees, searching for movement or eye shine. Bastion lit up an identical tack light and began sweeping in the opposite direction. "What are we looking for?" asked Bastion. "Trust me, boyo," said Logue. "You'll bloody well know it when you see it." "Fuck," whispered Bastion. "I was afraid you were going to say that." Logue's hearing picked up the sound of something whistling through the air, and he instinctively shoved Bastion to the side. A rock the size of a softball sizzled through the air, just narrowly missing Bastion's head by millimeters. It had been thrown with enough force that if Logue hadn't shoved him aside, it likely would have shattered his skull. "Jesus!" shouted Bastion. "What the fuck was that?" "Something ain't taking too kindly to us being here, boyo," said Logue. "Now shut up so as I can figure out where they came from." Logue scanned the area, letting his uncanny senses come into focus, allowing him far sharper night vision than any living creature. He focused on the heat given off by all living creatures and found what he was looking for. There were 6 large heat signatures in woods around them, all nearly 10 feet tall and massively built, with one exception. It had to be the alpha of the group because it was closer to 13 feet tall and had to be pushing 1,500 pounds, maybe even more. "Bloody hell," whispered Logue. "We need to get the fuck out of here." "Why?" asked Bastion. "We still haven't found the crying chick." "Listen to me, boyo," said Logue. "There ain't no woman out there. It's a damn trap to lure us into the woods. If we go any further, we ain't going to likely come back out again. Now start backing towards your cruiser." "Are you sure?" asked Bastion. Another rock, this one significantly bigger, sailed out of the trees and smashed into the side of Bastion's cruiser. It completely caved in the front of the passenger door and exploded the window. "Shite!" snapped Logue. "Go, boy, I'll cover you." Bastion turned and sprinted for his cruiser while Logue backed up, keeping his Devastator trained on the largest of the heat signatures. He watched it raise one hand to its face and make a strange warbling call. Then he heard the cracking of the trees back down the road. Logue turned to see 4 more of the massive heat signatures shoving huge trees down to block off the road. "Damn you, you bloody bastards," hissed Logue, taking aim at the big creature and flipping off the safety. "They're trying to trap us." As the big creature raised his hand again, Logue took the shot. He saw the heat of the projectiles streak through the air and impacted directly with the beast's massive chest. He expected to see the heat of blood erupting from the wound, but only heard the monster grunt in pain as it took a step back. There was no blood. Something had stopped the massive 458 SOCOM round cold. "Are they wearing bloody body armor now?" hissed Logue as he backed up quickly to the car. He glanced to his left and saw something almost made him freeze in his tracks. There in the light dusting of snow was another set of tire tracks. Someone else was in the old campground, even though it was supposed to be closed after dark. And Logue knew that whoever was down there was sitting ducks for these creatures. 133 to dispatch, said Logue. "Change that to code 3. Wake the sheriff. She's not going to want to hear this. We have a confirmed Bravo Foxtrot incursion at the Old Combs Ferry campground." "Say again, confirmed Bravo Foxtrot at the old campground." "Over." "Copy that, 133, said dispatch. "We'll set the ball in motion. Can you hold?" "Over." "I don't know," replied Logue, "but we have possible civilians trapped in the campground. Please advise." "Over." "Sheriff's policy is to protect the civilians," said dispatch. "We'll get you there, get to you as fast as we can. Good luck." "Fuck," hissed Logue, not bothering to reply to the radio. He knew that the priority was to protect the civilians, no matter the cost, but he also knew that if they didn't get out of the area, there was a good chance they weren't going to make it. While his abilities as a vampire might give him a fighting chance against 1 or 2 of the creatures, there were just too many for him to fight. He could always fly out of the area, but that meant leaving Bastion and the civilians to die. "Damn you, girl," thinking of Sheriff Amanda Sanchez Clark. "Why'd you have to bother to make me one of the good guys? A year ago, I'd never bothered sticking around. Hell, I wouldn't have even been in this bloody uniform." "Logue!" shouted Bastion. "They blocked the road." One of the creatures took a few running steps towards them and threw an uprooted cedar tree at them like a javelin. It slammed into Bastion's cruiser and punched through it like a spike, nearly flipping it over onto its side. It pierced the passenger side rear quarter panel and punched through all the way to the engine compartment in the front of the driver's seat. "Shit!" roared Bastion, firing 3 shots at the creature that threw the tree. "Take that, you bastard! Get in mine!" shouted Logue, sprinting for the driver's door. Bastion dove in the passenger seat and watched as horrors. More than a dozen of the massive beasts emerged from the woods and started coming right for them. Logue saw them clearly now in the ambient light caused by the snow covering the ground. He almost froze when he realized what he was looking at. They were nothing like any of the Bigfoot creatures he had seen before. They were built heavier, with thicker muscles and longer arms. These seemed more bestial with short snouts instead of normal mouths. While not as pronounced as the Gugway, they certainly appeared more hellish, more terrifying. But one other detail gave Logue chills and bothered him more than the rest. They were wearing crude armor made of stone, vines, and wood. What the bloody hell are these things? He asked as he fired up his engine. Behind him, the road was already blocked with several trees shoved down. It would take a crew with chainsaws hours to clear that mess. That left them only one direction to go, and that was into the old campground. But the problem was, there wasn't another way out. The creatures were driving them farther up the peninsula with no way to escape, and they were pushing them into a trap. 133 to dispatch, said Logue. We're proceeding to the old campground. Road's blocked off. We have no way to exit. Understood, 133, said dispatch. Help is on the way. I bloody well hope so, snapped Logue. 133 out.
And that's the end of chapter 1.
Dun, 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 dun.
Do, 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 do.
All right, then. Thank you, Pine Notch Order.
Your Irish accent's better than mine.
I don't know about that, boyo. That's from the. It's a wee bit of genetics from the old country.
And that's just chapter 1. It really takes off from there.
Yes, sir. Y'all gonna enjoy it, folks. Believe you me.
No, I have not. He said, have you seen The Last Druid of Ireland? I have not. Is it good? Angela Moore says, I'm sucked in. Jennifer Lee says, dang cliffhangers. Well, there's more written. There's a lot more written. That's just all I really want to reveal at this time, because the book is nowhere near complete. I'm at about just shy of 17,000 words, and I've got another 60,000 to probably put in it. I'll check it out, Gunt. Two Aces tease. Yeah, it's a teaser. It's to get people interested. Shadow Gypsy says, oh, this is going to be good. Roxanne says, sitting at the edge of my seat, then I have to wait. Now I want to get the book to finish it. Well, the alphas have already been keeping up. I've been keeping them busy with this, and I'm getting some fantastic feedback from the alphas. I think the only complaint is I'm not writing quite fast enough.
Yeah, because you'll send stuff to me and Robby will be reading it, and we'll text each other. Damn it! I was just getting into it. Why do you have to stop?
Little things like eating, sleeping, going to the bathroom.
Yeah, I know, right? That's minor details, DA. Minor details. Oh my goodness, that was fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Alrighty then.
Hey, you want to do the first chapter of Demon of Paladuro?
Why the hell not? While we're here, if everybody's game, it's
let me pull that rascal up. You've got a copy of it, don't you, Doc?
Let me look on my computer here, because I put it. It should be on here because I did it from the cloud. Let me look at the last one. What I'll do is I'll just look at the last one you sent me. You sent the last one on January 24th, didn't you?
Maybe. I don't know what date.
That's the last one.
We're going to do a little bit more than this. We're going to do the prologue and chapter 1.
Okay, let me airdrop it to my computer.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll start the prologue. Robby, do you have a copy of that as well?
Let's check and see.
Let's see here. DA, how many words was it?
Demon of Paladuro.
Yeah.
About 75,369 words thereabout.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I'm there.
Okay. Well, we'll start with the prologue and do chapter 1 as well. Sound good?
Sounds like a wiener.
Okay.
Yeah, I
the
got it.
prologue's fairly short. I'm trying to figure out how long chapter 1 is real quick. Give me just a second.
Robby, you good, bro?
Yeah, I got it.
All right. Yeah, the prologue's almost 12 pages, dude.
Well, it doesn't start on page 1 though.
No.
It's like 7 pages long. How about I do the prologue and you and Robby split up chapter 1?
Okay.
Chapter 1 starts on what page?
It starts on page 13.
Well, 12.
Oh, wow. It goes from 12 to 32, so it's 20 pages long.
Maybe we should read that later.
Well, that's about as long as what we just read.
Yeah.
It'll probably take about 20 minutes.
All right, then.
All right, I'll read the prologue, and one of you guys can go from page 12 to page 21 or page 22, and then the other one will go from 23 to the end of the chapter. However you guys want to break that up.
Okie dokie smoky.
All right, then. Let me get back to the top.
I'll start if you want me to, Doc.
Okay, brother.
All right. Dark Frontiers, the Demon of Paladuro Canyon. Prologue. For if one is to be a warrior, he has to pay attention to his trade and art. Discipline is the first rule of success. Staff Sergeant Barry Sadler. March 4th, 0900 hours Central Standard Time, Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. Daniel Clark stepped off the track of the exercise field behind the headquarters building of the Midwest Division of the Wild Hunt. Today was ACFT's, Army Combat Fitness Tests for Team Odin, and Clark had just finished the final event in his test, the 2-mile run. Running 2 miles wasn't all that bad, but in the ACFTs, you only ran it after you'd completed the other 5 tests. They were the 3 repetition max deadlift, the standing power throw, the hand release push-ups, the sprint drag carry, the leg tuck, and finally the 2-mile run. How'd I do, Sergeant Major? Said Clark, grabbing a towel to wipe the sweat from his face. Well, said Gideon, you maxed the run time for kids half your age, 11 minutes and 15 seconds. You're off the chart for your age group. What's the time requirement for your age group? Asked Clark, grinning at Gideon. I just have to show up, Gideon replied with a chuckle. At my age, just walking up to the starting line qualifies me. Clark laughed. Yeah, I don't suppose the Army designed its fitness categories for someone who's been in the military since God was a corporal, said Clark, running the towel over his close-cropped hair. He wasn't a corporal, said Gideon with a grin. We went to basic together. Margolin came running up, and Valkyrie clicked off her stopwatch. What was my time? Asked Margolin, grabbing his water bottle and squirting a steady stream onto his face. 9 minutes, 16 seconds, she replied. Damn, said Margolin. That's a personal best. What'd you get, Major? I got, said Clark. Embrace the suck, interrupted Gideon before Clark could finish. Fuck me, Sergeant Major, said Margolin, grinning. I just finished my PT test. Do I really got a drop? Want me to say it again? Asked Gideon. Shit, muttered Margolin, dropping to the leaning rest and rapidly cranking out push-ups. Some guys never learn, said Valkyrie, grinning at Margolin. Gee, thanks, he said. Don't make me lose count. Valkyrie glanced over at the clipboard where Gideon had been recording Clark's scores. Looks like you'd better keep running, Frank, she said, smiling. Looks like the Major's got you beat. She winked at Clark and smiled. What about you, Sergeant Major? Asked Valkyrie. Gideon flipped the page on the clipboard and held it out for her to read. This was last year's score, said Gideon. My test is tomorrow. I plan to beat this score this time. Damn, Sergeant Major, she said, smiling. Way to represent. Represent what? Asked Margolin. The over 2,000-year-old category? Margolin, said Gideon. Yeah, Sergeant Major, said Margolin, still pumping out push-ups. Embrace the suck, said Gideon. Embrace the suck. Fuck me, whispered Margolin. That'll teach you to keep your mouth shut, said Valkyrie. No, it won't, replied Gideon, shaking his head. Nothing ever does. He's not wrong, added Clark. Maybe, said Margolin, but I've got the team record for push-ups on the test. Yeah, because you spend half your time doing them, chided Valkyrie. Details, said Margolin. Now, how many is that? I don't know, said Valkyrie. I wasn't counting. Well, shit, hissed Margolin. I wasn't either. Guess you're starting over then, said Gideon. You owe me 300 good push-ups. Margolin paused for a moment in the up position, took a few deep breaths, and started again. 1, motherfucker, he began counting out loud. 2, motherfucker. Let's get out of here, said Gideon. I don't want to hear 298 more of those. I'll stick around and make sure he does them all, said Valkyrie, grinning. Good, said Clark. I need a shower and a handful of ibuprofen. Maybe a couple of bottles of Gatorade, too. As they started to walk away, Clark saw one of the staff from headquarters coming his way at a quick pace. Clark didn't recognize him, but he knew he had to be admin staff because he wasn't wearing a combat patch. Uh-oh, said Gideon. This doesn't bode well. The specialist name tag read Oliver. He came crisply to attention and saluted. Clark returned the salute and waited for the man to speak. Major Clark, said Oliver. Colonel Boudreau would like to see you in his office immediately, sir. Did he say what it was about, specialist? Asked Clark. No, sir, said Oliver. Should I call Lieutenant Colonel Saunders? Asked Clark. He's my CO. Colonel Saunders is already there, sir, said Oliver. Maybe I should tag along, said Gideon. He didn't request you, said Oliver snidely. He didn't request you, Sergeant Major, snapped Gideon. Tell me, specialist. Did he specifically tell me not to come? No, stammered Oliver. No, Sergeant Major, bellowed Gideon. Do you have a goddamn hearing problem? No, sir, Oliver said, the color draining out of his face. I mean, no, Sergeant Major. Margolin, said Gideon over his shoulder. Yes, Sergeant Major, called Margolin. Recover, snapped Gideon. Margolin instantly drew both his knees up and stood up, going immediately to the position of attention. Now, I want Specialist Oliver here to give me 300 Sergeant Majors, said Gideon. You stand here and make sure he does every single fucking one of them. Full push-ups, followed by saying Sergeant Major. And when he's finished, I want you to drill this little shit on the damn chain of command so this little lesson sinks in. Hooah! Hooah, Sergeant Major, snapped Margolin. Gideon turned back to Oliver with a dark look on his face, and all he said was, drop. As Oliver began doing push-ups, punctuated with Sergeant Major, Clark and Gideon headed for the headquarters. Damn, you're in a foul mood, said Clark, grinning at Gideon as they walked toward headquarters. Did you hear the tone that little shit used when he said I wasn't requested? Asked Gideon. I might take that crap from the team once in a while, but only if they're joking. But I'll be damned if I'll take it from this little fucking ASVAB waiver non-deployable son of a bitch. Fucking little snot-nosed pog. These damn little admin pricks think they're untouchable because they work at headquarters. It's been like that since the days of the damn Legion. Okay, so you're an admin. So fucking what? They talk shit while we're the ones out risking our asses. And he's a damn leg on top of it all. Damn, Sergeant Major, said Clark softly. Tell me what you really think. Are you okay? I don't think I've ever heard you curse that much at one time. Gideon drew a deep breath and let it out slowly. I'm sorry, he replied after a moment. Guess I've had a lot on my mind the last few days. Let me guess, said Clark. Something to do with your conversation with Declan? Yeah, admitted Gideon. Brought up a lot of old hurts that I thought I'd put behind me. Declan was carrying that same pain around, said Clark. I know, said Gideon. And I would have given anything to not put him through that. Hell, to put any of you through it. Did you know that your curse could be passed on? Asked Clark. Not at first, said Gideon. After watching my first wife, Callista, grow old and die, I swore off relationships for about 500 or 600 years. After a while, I guess I just got lonely. I watched several of my children grow old and die. None of them had taken up the sword and didn't invite the curse. In fact, I always discouraged my kids from becoming warriors for a long time, even though I didn't know what would happen if they did. When did you figure it out? Asked Clark. First time I saw the curse take a hold of one of my children was during the Battle of Culloden in 1746, said Gideon. I think you know how that battle ended. I was living under the name Dougal Donached at the time. My son Connell was cut down by grape shot fired by Clan Campbell's cannons. I thought he was dead, and I cradled his lifeless body riddled with holes. After a few moments, He took in a sudden breath, and the wounds began to expel the shot slowly. Then what happened? Asked Clark. Well, he fully recovered, and we had to flee Scotland, said Gideon. They wanted to burn him at the stake for witchcraft. Too many people had seen him fall. Is he still around? Asked Clark. No, he's dead, said Gideon. He met a woman in France in 1823, fell in love, and gave up the path of the warrior. It took a while, but he slowly lost the curse and grew old, dying in 1885 in his estate outside of Paris. So if I retire, I'll start to age? Asked Clark. I doubt it, said Gideon. Like me and Declan, you're a warrior. It's as much who you are as your eye color. You can retire, but you'll still be a warrior. Eventually, the call of battle will pull you back in. I thought you were in America in 1885, asked Clark. How'd you find out? His estate contacted me since he had no heirs, said Gideon. We stayed in touch after I left Europe. I still own the estate, although I have caretakers who maintain it for me. If you ever want to take Amanda to Paris, you can stay there for free. Just let me know. Damn, said Clark as they reached the door to the headquarters. We'll pick this up later. Gideon didn't say anything. They just walked together down the hallway to Colonel Boudreaux's office. The secretary motioned for them to go in without hesitation. Gideon and Clark snapped to attention in front of Boudreaux's desk. Lieutenant Colonel Saunders and Command Sergeant Major Hammond were already there. Major Clark reporting is ordered, sir, said Clark. Sit down, Major, said Boudreaux, returning the salute haphazardly. Good to see Sergeant Major Gideon came with you. I figured he would. Take a seat, gentlemen. Gideon gave Clark a brief shrug as he slid into the chair, as if to say, see, I told you. Clark chuckled softly. Something amusing, Major? Asked Boudreaux, his tone suddenly very serious. Nothing important, sir, said Clark. My apologies. Your messenger didn't seem to think that Sergeant Major Gideon was welcome. From the look on your face, said Boudreaux, I take it you corrected his misguided assumption? Yes, sir, said Gideon. I'm sure I left a lasting impression. Well, whenever he's done doing push-ups, said Boudreaux, tell him to come to my office. I think he needs a refresher on where an admin specialist lies on the chain of command. Yes, sir, said Gideon. I'll text Margolin and make sure he sends him your way. Gideon quickly sent the text while Boudreaux took his seat and leaned back in his chair. Gentlemen, began Boudreaux, I have some interesting news. It seems we've located another one of Declan Kane's journals. Do we even need them now that Kane's come in out of the cold? Asked Clark. I'd like to think Mr. Kane will be sharing everything with us, said Boudreaux, but that doesn't mean we quit looking for the journals. Do you think Kane would lie to us, sir? Asked CSM Hammond. Or hold information back? No, nothing like that, said Boudreaux. Mr. Kane has been very forthcoming with all his information. I just think it's in our best interest to locate all of the journals that we can to prevent them from falling into the hands of the Ouroboros Society. Hadn't thought of that, said Clark, frowning. Colonel makes a good point, said Gideon. Just because we have Declan with us doesn't mean there might not be something they can use against us in those journals. We can't afford to risk them getting their hands on any of them if we can prevent it. You want us to go get it, right, sir? Asked Clark. That's the plan, said Boudreaux. You want me to assemble a cat team? Asked Clark. No, answered Boudreaux. The last time you found one, you were attacked because they wanted to take it from you. We can't let that happen again. So who's going? Asked Saunders. I want Team 2 to make the initial push to recover it, said Boudreaux. The rest of Team Odin will be on hot standby should they need backup. Yes, sir, said Saunders. We'll make it happen. Good, said Boudreaux. Major, get changed. A pair of Chinooks will be landing in the parade field in just under an hour. Get your gear, have your team assembled and ready with full kit. It must be close by, said Gideon, otherwise we wouldn't be taking choppers. Where are we going, sir? Asked Clark. And how are we going to get away with taking an entire team in full battle rattle? Won't they be a little suspicious? Don't worry, Major, said Boudreaux. Where you're going, it won't matter how you deploy. You and your team are heading for Jay Matoska's house near Eldridge, Missouri. Why? Asked Clark. Because he came into possession of the journal, said Boudreaux. It was given to him by two of the newest members of the Hotametaneo. He said he'll explain when you get there. Why do you expect the Ouroboros Society to go after it? Asked Clark. I mean, Jay Matoska and the other Hotametaneo have always been on our side. I don't think any of them would say anything about it. It's not them I worry about, said Boudreaux. Despite a thorough investigation, we still have no idea how they learned of the one at Kane's old homestead. We think there might be a mole in the wild hunt. We're working to ferret them out, but we can't assume that this information hasn't been compromised. You mean beyond that prick Beowulf? Asked Gideon. Boudreaux nodded but said nothing. Who else knows? Asked Clark. Only a handful of people here, said Boudreaux, but we had to inform Asdard Actual. There could be a mole here or on his staff. Either way, we can't take the risk. I'm sure the Hotametaneo can protect it until we get there to retrieve it, said Clark. Under normal circumstances, I would agree, Major, said Boudreaux. But only Jane Matoska, Kalani Nasnani, and her baby are there. The others are on a reservation in Pine Ridge, inducting new members. Well, shit, said Clark. We need to get there quickly then. Thus the choppers, said Boudreaux. Now get your gear and get moving. Tell the choppers to step it up, said Clark. We'll be ready in 20 minutes. Gideon? I'll make it happen, sir, said Gideon, heading for the door. Godspeed, Major, said Boudreaux. We'll be ready if you need us, Daniel, said Saunders. Now get your ass moving. On my way, said Clark, racing out the door after Gideon. He broke into a sprint for the barracks as soon as he cleared the door to headquarters. Across the parade field, he could see all of Team 2 running for the barracks building, and Gideon screamed for him to move faster. Let's move, roared Clark. Move, move, move! I want to be in the air in 15 minutes. He wasn't sure what Boudreaux had told the chopper pilots, but he could already hear the rotors in the distance. Clark only hoped that the Ouroboros Society didn't beat them there. He'd rather lose the journal than his friends, and if he had to choose one, he'd make that decision instantly. Lives mattered more than any journal. He just hoped that whatever was in that journal was worth the trouble. We're coming, Jay, whispered Clark. God, please let us get there in time.
Chapter 1, Ride Hard. The best way out of difficulty is through it. Will Rogers. 10 a.m. Central CDT time, August 5th, 1988. XIT Rodeo and Reunion, Dalhart, Texas. Rocky Marlowe stood beside his father's Palomino horse, Doc. He was adjusting the cinch strap in the saddle and completely lost in thought. Gone was a 12-year-old boy who had ridden for his life against the strange dogman. Rocky was now 18 and stood 6 foot 5 inches tall without his boots on, making him 4 inches taller than his father. He was lean and muscular from working the ranch, with sustained features that stood out in stark contrast to his pale blue eyes. Melody Mel Pulaski approached him and handed him a cold glass bottle of Coca-Cola. Smiling as she looked up at him, Mel was only about 5 foot 4 inches tall with her boots on, and she had to lean up to kiss him. Rocky didn't mind, though. He told her she was a perfect size for him to scoop up in her arms. That always made her smile. They'd been best friends as well as boyfriend and girlfriend since that day on Rocky's ranch that had changed their entire world. Are you ready? She asked, smiling demurely. As I ever will be, I suppose, said Rocky, glancing down at Doc's hooves. I miss riding Domingo. You're too tall for Domingo now, she said, grinning. Besides, he likes me better. Is that why he always gets excited when I come to the corral? Asked Rocky, grinning. No, it's because he knows you're bringing him an apple, she replied. Old habits die hard, I guess, said Rocky with a shrug. Doc's well trained, said Mel. He'll give you all he's got and then some. I know he will, said Rocky, stroking the neck of the golden horse. Doc whickered softly and nuzzled Rocky's shoulder. Rocky leaned around and placed his forehead against Doc's. The big horse blew out of breath at Rocky, which he returned. Then he produced an apple from his vest pocket and gave it to him. Doc whinnied excitedly before accepting the treat and beginning to munch contentedly. You don't have to do this, Mel said, taking Rocky's hand. Yeah, I do, he replied. If I don't win at least one of these events, we're going to lose the ranch. There's got to be another way, Mel answered. I don't want you to get hurt. You entered 2 of the most dangerous events at the rodeo. Actually, it's 3, said Rocky with a sheepish grin. I signed up for both bareback and bronc riding. The purse is higher for bareback. You know I can handle a bronco, so don't worry about that. Rocky, she said angrily. I know, but it gives me a better chance of pulling a prize, replied Rocky. Besides, bronc and bareback are my best events. Okay, but people still die every year at the steer wrestling event, she said sternly. Bulldogging is dangerous, said Rocky, but all I got to do is avoid the horns. Yeah, and not get trampled to death, added Mel. Well, there's that, said Rocky, chuckling. I know this ain't the best plan, but it's all I can come up with. If I can win 2 events, we can pay off the loan. Winning 1 will buy us time in the bank. And what if you win all 5, she asked, grinning. Then we'll pay off some medical bills, and then there's a beautiful Navajo girl I've been planning to marry, he said. I can afford that ring I had my eye on. Navajo girl, Mel said, grinning. Anyone I know? I think you might have met her once or twice, said Rocky, pulling her into his arms and kissing her. He held her there for a long moment, taking the feeling in. He was more nervous about competing than he wanted to admit. Well, looky who's trying to poke a Pocahontas, said a snide voice. Rocky knew it without looking up. His name was Clayton Barrow, and he was riding for the Black Ridge Ranch. They were the cattle company planning to buy up Rocky's ranch for pennies on the dollar if they couldn't pay the note. Rocky swore he'd die before he let that happen. Go away, Clayton, said Rocky. I ain't got time for the likes of you. And if I don't, sneered Clayton, what are you going to do about it? Me? Asked Rocky. Nothing at all. It ain't me you should be worrying about. Before Clayton could say anything, Mel turned and hit him right in the nose with a closed fist. For a small girl, she packed quite a punch. The force knocked Clayton on his back, and from the volume of blood, it likely broke his nose as well. You bitch, hissed Clayton. This time it was Rocky's turn. He grabbed Clayton by his shirt collar, and roughly yanked him to his feet. Clayton tried to break his grip, but discovered that Rocky was far stronger than he was. The look of fear on Clayton's eyes said it all. Listen closely, because I'm only going to say this once, Rocky said menacingly. You can run your mouth about me all you like, but if you ever disrespect her again, I'll beat you like a damn rented mule. Do you understand me? Clayton didn't say anything. He only nodded his head slowly. Good, said Rocky. Now, you owe the lady an apology. You can give it to her with or without your teeth in your mouth. Sure call. I'm sorry, stammered Clayton. Didn't your mama teach you any manners? Asked Rocky. You don't ever use that kind of language in front of a lady. If you ever speak to her again, I'm going to give you a lesson in manners you'll likely never forget. Can I go now? Asked Clayton, fear etched plainly on his face. I'm going to tell you something that my grandpa taught me when I was little, said Rocky, and you best take it to heart. He said, if you can't get along, then you best get along. You think about that when I kick your butt in the bronc riding event. One more thing, said Mel. Pocahontas was Powhatan. I'm Navajo. If you're going to be a racist dick, then at least get it right. Rocky shoved Clayton roughly, and he turned quickly, running for the other side of the grandstand. Rocky waited until he was well out of earshot before turning to Mel and grinning broadly. I think you broke his nose, Rocky said, chuckling. Well, he deserved it, she replied. You think he's going to press charges against me? I seriously doubt it, said Rocky. He ain't ever going to admit that a girl half his size punched him out like he was nothing. How's your hand? It's fine, she replied, opening and closing her fist a few times. Well worth it. But you know what this means, right? What's that? Asked Rocky. You got to beat him in the bronc riding event, she replied. Even if you don't win, you got to beat him. I hope he doesn't even make it out of the chute. How about I just win it? Said Rocky, grinning. That'll do nicely, she said, returning the grin. She leaned in and wrapped her arms around his neck, kissing him deeply. For good luck, she said, as she released him. I'll look for you in the stand, said Rocky. I'll be easy to find, she replied. I'll be with your parents, your grandpa, my uncle, and my dad. We're all here cheering for you. I got us seats right by the fence near the bronc chutes. That couldn't have been easy getting Dad here, said Rocky. Ever since the stroke, Mom's had a hard time getting him in and out of the truck. Why do you think my uncle and my dad came along, she said with a wink. Thank you, said Rocky. I want to make him proud. He already is, said Mel. And so am I. Now, let me take Doc to the corral while you get ready for the bronc riding event. They'll be announcing your horse any time now. I hope you get an easy one. I don't, replied Rocky. The tougher the horse, the bigger the points. All I need is 8 seconds. You know, you didn't have to sign up for the bareback event, Mel said, scowling. You could have just ridden with a saddle. Bareback is a higher purse, said Rocky, shaking his head. That's the only reason we're here. Mel scowled at him, but before she could say anything, the PA system kicked in and announced the beginning of the bronc riding event. Then they listened quietly to the riders and the horses they'd drawn. They waited with bated breath until they called his name. He was riding just after Clayton, and he'd drawn a horse called Skull Sippin' Velvet. Holy cow, said Rocky. What? Asked Mel. Skull Sippin' Velvet was last year's PRCA Bucking Horse of the Year, he replied. You can't get get a tougher horse than that. Mel scowled but didn't say anything. I know, said Rocky. I'll be careful. Mel shook her head and led Doc off toward the corral. Rocky adjusted his chaps and checked his boots when he heard an unfamiliar voice behind him. Nervous, cowboy? Asked the stranger. Rocky turned to face the newcomer and stopped when he recognized him. Lane Frost? Asked Rocky. I didn't know you were riding here. I ain't, said Lane. I'm just here watching my wife compete in the barrel racing event. It's an honor to meet you, sir, said Rocky, shaking the famous cowboy's hand firmly. And yes, I'm nervous, by the way. By the way, I'm Rocky Marlowe. Mind if I ask you a personal question, Rocky? Lane asked. Sure, replied Rocky. Why are you competing? Asked Lane. To save our ranch, admitted Rocky. I don't care about the silver belt buckle or titles. I need to win the prize money to keep the bank from foreclosing on the ranch. Lane smiled and nodded appreciatively. Then you're a real cowboy, said Lane. You're doing this for your family. Ain't no better reason than that at all. Lane gestured at the area around the pens. This is just for fun, Lane added. Real cowboying is done on the ranches just like yours, every day. The hard work you do to put the food on the table, that's real cowboying. Don't let anyone ever tell you anything otherwise. Thank you, sir, said Rocky. When you get on that bronc, Lane said, just forget about the next 8 seconds. You concentrate on each one as it comes. Don't plan your entire ride in your head. That's a mistake a lot of riders make. Besides, that bronc ain't going to do what you plan on anyway. You just think of your family and ride every second as if it was your last on earth. Because for those 8 seconds, nothing else is going to exist. If you can just focus on each second as it comes without anticipating the next one, you'll do fine. That's how I do it. You ride like each second is the last one and you make it count. Thank you, said Rocky. That means a lot to me. I'm rooting for you, Rocky, said Lane. Go out there and show them what you're made of. Yes, sir, said Rocky, shaking Lane's hand again. As Lane headed off to the grandstand, Rocky made his way into the bronc chutes. He went to the official and gave him his name and was directed to chute number 4 and told to get ready. As he approached, he saw Skull Sipping Velvet waiting on him, radiating power and strength. Whoa, whispered Rocky, intimidated by the powerful dark-colored horse. Take a good look, son, said the handler. He's thrown some damn good riders, so you'd best ride your best today. I'll do my best, replied Rocky. You better do more than that, said the man. This horse ain't taking any prisoners. How many rodeos have you rode in, son? A few, replied Rocky, but this is the biggest one I've ever done. I'll bet you $50 you don't last 3 seconds, said the man, grinning. Hell, he won't make it out of the chute, said Clayton, as he prepared to climb on his assigned horse. Probably going to piss himself before the clock even starts. What's that horse you're riding? Asked Rocky. Last I checked, it wasn't last year's champion bucking horse. This one is. You want to take over, Doc?
Yeah. I'll put $500 on me staying in the saddle longer than you, said Clayton mockingly. I ain't got 500, said Rocky. And you won't have your ranch much longer, sneered Clayton. I look forward to tossing you and your family out on their worthless asses. Rocky wanted to knock Clayton's teeth out of his mouth, but he kept his temper in check. Barely. Tell you what, said Clayton, you beat me, I'll give you that 500. You lose and I get that saddle of yours with silver conchos. This was a gift from my grandpa, said Rocky. I ain't betting it. Well, it'll be mine soon enough anyway, sneered Clayton. Once your ranch and everything on it is on the auction block. Fine, snapped Rocky. It's a bet. Clayton got on his mount and waited for the gate to open so he could begin his ride. Once his concentration was focused on his horse, Skull Sipping Velvet's handler leaned closer to Rocky. You're riding to save your ranch? Asked the handler. Yes, sir, said Rocky, and to keep his cattle company from taking it. Then go out there and kick that little punk's ass, whispered the handler. And remember, Skull Sipping Velvet always goes to the left, first thing out of the chute. Thank you, replied Rocky. Much appreciated. The chute was pulled and Clayton began to ride. The horse he drew bucked hard, twisted as it spun, and sent Clayton flying face first in the dirt. 1.3 seconds, called the announcer. Not a great showing for the rider from the Black River Ranch. Rocky couldn't help but smile. Clayton didn't even ride for 2 seconds. Rocky knew that Skull Sipping Velvet was going to buck much harder than Clayton's horse, but he was confident he could hold on for more than 2 seconds. Ready? Asked the handler. Rocky slipped on the back of the horse and wrapped his hand in the braided rope. He wrapped his legs tightly around and hooked his heels just like his daddy had taught him. And Rocky had been saddle breaking horses on the ranch since he was 14. While he hadn't competed many times, breaking a wild horse wasn't easy. He felt like he'd been preparing for this moment all his years. Ready, said Rocky with more confidence than he ever felt. He took in a deep, steadying breath, and the words Lane had told him come flooding back. He whispered a silent prayer, crossed himself with his free hand. Next up, Rocky Marlowe, riding for the Rockin' M Ranch out of Clayton, New Mexico, said the announcer. Rocky's got his work cut out for him this year, folks, because he's riding last year's champion bronc, Skull Sippin' Velvet. The crowd roared their approval in anticipation of the gate coming open, and Rocky nodded and tensed for the ride. He didn't have to wait very long. Ride hard, son, said the handler. Get out there and beat that little bastard. Before Rocky could even nod, the gate opened up and Skull Sippin' Velvet exploded out of his chute, going left as he exited. Rocky felt himself lifted by the violently bucking horse, then slamming down with bone-jarring force. He kept his heels dug in and hugged tightly with his thighs, but the horse just kept turning and kicking up his back legs. Rocky kept his free hand there and focused on keeping his body position and leg motion. Every point counted if he was going to win this event, and more importantly, win his ranch. Rocky felt like every second he was in the saddle was an eternity. He did as he was instructed by Lane, and he focused on each buck, each twist, and each jump of the powerful horse. He wasn't trying to anticipate any of his movements, instead choosing to focus on what it was doing right there at that moment. He didn't even count on the seconds in his head, instead choosing to stay in the moment. Lane was also right about the rest of the world fading away during the ride. The crowd was a blur of motion, and he was only vaguely aware of the roar of the grandstand. Skull Sippin' Velvet twisted and turned, and then he heard something he hadn't expected to hear. The buzzer sounded, indicating he had gone the full 8 seconds. He timed his dismount and hit the ground, rolling away from the still bucking bronco. He jumped to his feet, raced to the fence, leaping onto the steel railing and swinging over before the horse could turn and trample him. A rodeo clown ran by and tossed Rocky his hat that he didn't even realize he had lost. As he jumped down from the fence, Mel ran up to him, grabbed him tightly, and there were tears of joy in her face. She kissed him as she held his face between her hands. You did it, she said excitedly. What an incredible ride. Thanks, he said. Let's see what the judges think. Well, that's a fantastic ride from one tough cowboy, said the announcer of the PA system. Looks like young Rocky gets high marks from all the judges. His overall score is 93. A fine ride from such a young contestant. I think he just might have a future on the circuit. Rocky pumped his fist in the air, and the crowd around him went wild, slapping him on the back and shaking his hand. Rocky was overwhelmed at the outpouring of support from so many complete strangers. Then he turned and saw Clayton standing there with a sour look on his face. He handed Rocky a roll of cash without saying a word, then turned and walked away. What's that? Asked Mel. He bet me $500 he'd beat me, he said, grinning. What? She said in surprise. What were you going to do if you lost? I bet my saddle, said Rocky sheepishly. Rocky, she said, that was a gift from your grandfather. You shouldn't have bet that. I know, said Rocky, frowning. Clayton just made me so dang mad, at least I won. You sure did, she replied, hugging him again. Just use that money for the ranch, and we won't mention anything about the bet to your folks. That's a good idea, said Rocky. I got to get ready for the next event. Go, she said, giving him a quick kiss. We'll be cheering here for you. Rocky headed off towards the corral to collect Doc and get ready for the bulldogging event. When he arrived, there was a man there that he didn't know. He was leaning against the rail, stroking Doc's nose. Something I can do for you, mister? Asked Rocky as he approached. Oh, aye, said the man in a soft Irish accent. I'd like the chance to chat with you if you have the time. I'm afraid I don't have much time, said Rocky apologetically. I'm due to compete in the bulldogging event in just a few minutes. I just came here to collect my horse. You've got yourself a fine animal here, said the man. I'm sure he'll do you proud. Thanks, said Rocky. Doc's my dad's horse, but he can't ride right now. He had a stroke right after Christmas, and he's still recovering. Aye, and you're taking care of things while he's on the mend, said the man. I heard you were riding to save your ranch. I am, said Rocky. How'd you hear about that? Oh, word gets around, said the man, smiling. How's about I take you and your family to dinner when you're done competing for the day? My treat. That's awful generous of you, mister, said Rocky, but that might get a touch expensive. Oh, don't you worry about that, lad, said the man. I'd like to make you an offer, one that'll save your ranch and more. All right, said Rocky. I have another bronc ride in a couple of hours. We'll be done for the day by around 3 or so. Excellent, said the man. I'll meet you right here at the corral. What's your name, sir? Asked Rocky. Declan, he replied. Declan Kane. I'll see you in a few hours. Good luck at the event. Thanks, said Rocky, opening the gate and taking hold of Doc's bridle. 4 hours later, Rocky found himself sitting at the table in K-Bob's Steakhouse in Dalhart. To his right was Mel and her father and uncle. Across from him was his mother's father and grandfather. And Buzzy was still in the wheelchair, but his physical therapy was allowing him to walk further all the time. They were hoping he'd be walking with a cane in just a few weeks. To Rocky's left sat Declan Kane. Declan was slightly shorter than Rocky, but the way he held himself made him seem so much larger. And Rocky knew at a glance that Declan wasn't someone to be taken lightly. There was just something in Declan's eyes that felt dangerous, despite his friendly Irish demeanor. I believe congratulations are in order, said Declan, raising his glass of lemonade. Coming in second, the bronc competition was impressive, especially this is your first big event. Everyone raised their glasses, and Mel smiled at Rocky proudly. Well, it's a start, said Rocky. The prize money might hold off the bank a bit longer, but we ain't out of the woods yet. Well, now, said Declan with a wry grin. Exactly how much do you owe to the bank, if you don't mind me asking? Rocky glanced over at his mother, and she gave him a tight-lipped frown. Just over $25,000, said Buck, Rocky's grandfather. Maria, Rocky's mother, gave Buck a dark look but didn't say anything. What? Asked Buck, grinning. He just asked. I ain't nothing to be ashamed of. We just had a bad year is all. Declan reached in his pocket and took out a folded manila envelope and handed it to Rocky. What's this? Asked Rocky. More than enough to cover the note, said Declan, with some to spare for medical bills and whatever else you might be needing. I can't take this, said Rocky. Of course you can, said Declan. I can't take your charity, said Rocky proudly. I don't even know you. Aye, that's fair, said Declan, but don't you consider it charity, son? Then what should I consider it? Asked Rocky. I considered it down payment, said Declan with a sly smile. Down payment, said Rocky. Look, Mr. Kane, we're not interested in selling the ranch. Aye, I know that, said Declan, but I ain't looking to buy it. That's for you to keep your line and pay off your bills. Then what's it a down payment for? Asked Rocky. Oh, for services rendered, of course, said Declan, grinning. Rocky and Buck exchanged confused glances. What services? Asked Mel. Well, as a point of fact, I want to hire Rocky to work for me for a spell, said Declan. I can't do that, said Rocky. I got to work our ranch. If I ain't there, there's no one to work the cattle. Rocky, that money will save your ranch, said Jacob Peshlakai. Thomas and I will look after your ranch while you're gone. Mel can help. Yeah, I can help, she said, but what do you need Rocky for, Mr. Kane? Please, all of you call me Declan, said Declan, grinning. I want you all to consider me as a friend. I need Rocky to work a ranch with me. A friend is having a wee bit of trouble with his herd, and I think Rocky could be a lot of help. I'm a fair hand with the cattle, said Rocky, but there's 1,000 other guys out there at the rodeo who are just as good or better. Why me? Well, there ain't 1,000 other cowboys at the rodeo who face the Olonga Doglala, said Declan quietly. Not to put it too fine a point to it. Everyone at the table went pale. How do you know about that? Asked Buzzy. I knew a General Michael Dalton, said Declan. I wouldn't say we're exactly friends, but we were well acquainted. Knew? Asked Rocky. He was killed a few months ago in a training accident. I don't know if that's the truth of it, but I'm sorry if you didn't know. He was family, said Rocky, but we didn't really know him that well, only met him a few times. Rocky can't go fight these things with you, said Mel. Take your money back and forget it. I won't let him go with you and get killed. We need that money, whispered Rocky. I haven't won enough prize money to pay the bank. You still have enough money. One more day to compete, said Mel. You might still win enough. Might, said Rocky. This a guarantee we'd stay the ranch. But we might lose you, she said, nearly sobbing. I can't risk that. I know it's risky, said Rocky, but this will save the ranch right now. Plus, it'll pay off a few of the medical bills. Oh, you don't have to worry about them, said Declan. Like I said, this is just a down payment. Save your ranch with this money, but there's more coming once we end the threat to me friend's ranch. Rocky, said Mel pleadingly, we'll find another way. There ain't another way, said Rocky. I know you might be thinking or saying no, said Declan, but this family is having almost the same problems you had a few years back. The only difference is that they ain't got no one to call. I'm all they got, and I can't do it alone. Is it the same creatures? Asked Rocky. Now, I can't say that for sure, said Declan. Something is killing their livestock and killed 2 ranch hands. They tried calling the law, but they weren't much help. The sheriff don't believe it's nothing other than a pack of coyotes. How much more? Asked Buck. What? Asked Declan. You said that was a down payment, said Buck. I'm sorry if I'm blunt, but how much more are you going to pay the boy? That'll depend on what we get when we get there, said Declan, and how many of them they are. I don't like it, said Mel, grabbing Rocky by the hand. It's too dangerous. I know, said Rocky, but I got to do this. I can't let the bank take our land. I know, she said sadly, but I don't have to like it. When do we leave? Asked Rocky. Tomorrow morning, said Declan. After you're done competing, I need that much time to get all my equipment ready anyway. Besides, the others won't be here before tomorrow morning anyway. What do I need to bring? Asked Rocky. Just your saddle, said Declan. I'll provide the rest. How long do you expect this to take? Asked Buck. Hard to say, said Declan. Could be right quick, or it might take a wee bit longer. We don't know till we get there. I prefer to ride my own horse, said Rocky. No, boyo, said Declan. You don't want to do that, not this time. I got the horses that are trained for this kind of thing. Your horse would throw you and bolt as soon as we got close. All right, I'm in, said Rocky. I didn't bring any guns. I'll have to go back home and get them. I've got you covered there too, laddie, said Declan. I'll have everything covered. Like I said, all you need is your saddle. One more thing, said Mel. Hey, what's that, dear girl? Asked Declan. I'm coming too, she said. I've faced these things before. Mel, no, said Rocky. It's too dangerous. If it's too dangerous for me, she said, then it's too dangerous for you. We're in this together. Declan smiled. You remind me of my sweet sainted, sweet Abigail, he said, sadness in his voice. What happened to her? Asked Mel. She passed, said Declan, his voice thick with emotion, a long time ago. I'm so sorry, said Mel. Thank you, said Declan. You have her spirit. Mel, please, said Rocky. If you go, I go, she said adamantly. Declan, said Rocky, hoping Declan would say no to her coming. Fine by me, said Declan. She's seen these things before. She won't be afraid. Rocky frowned but didn't argue. We can watch the ranch, said Buck. Between me, Jacob, and Thomas, we can keep things going until you get back. Fine, said Rocky with a note of anger in his voice. I guess we're both going. Mel smiled and Declan started laughing. Boyo, you got a tiger by the tail with this one, sure, Declan said, nodding to Mel. She's a keeper, she is. The waitress arrived and started handing out their orders, and once everyone had their plate, the waitress headed off to another table. Do you mind if we say grace? Asked Maria. Not at all, said Declan. I'd be right proud to join you. Do you mind doing the honors then, Mr. Kane? Asked Maria. Aye, it'd be a pleasure, replied Declan. They all joined hands and bowed their heads. May love and laughter light your days, Declan began, and warm your heart and home. May good and faithful friends be yours wherever ye may roam. May peace and plenty bless your world with joy that long endures, and may all life's passing season bring the best to you and yours. Amen, they all said in unison. Everyone crossed themselves after saying amen. That was beautiful, said Marie. It's an old Irish blessing, said Declan. I thought it fitting. I like it, said Maria. Are you Catholic? After a fashion, said Declan. My father was a Jesuit priest. He had intended for me to follow him to the priesthood, and I ended up going to war instead. What's up to you after you came home? Asked Maria. I suppose my heart wasn't in any longer, he said honestly. War changes you in ways that's hard to explain unless you've seen the elephant for yourself. Buzzy fought in Vietnam, said Maria, and Buck fought in World War II. Then they understand, said Declan. I've never heard the expression, seen the elephant, said Rocky. What does it mean? It's an old expression, boyo, said Declan. It means to have served in combat, and I think y'all qualify since you faced the Olonga Doglala. Rocky leaned back in his chair. Now it made sense why there was a dangerous look in Declan's eyes. He had seen that same look in his father and grandfather's eyes on that rare occasion that they talked about their experiences in the military. Declan must have seen some horrible things for it to be there all the time. He wondered if they should ask him about it, but then he thought better of it. Neither Buck nor Buzzy liked talking about their experiences either.
And that is the end of chapter 1.
Phew! I broke a sweat. Lord!
Linda, that's Michael Dalton, not Joshua Dalton. That would be Joshua Dalton's dad.
All right.
Either
Nicely
be his
done.
dad or his granddad. Probably his dad.
Rocky's a
What do you
good
guys
kid.
I like Rocky.
Yep.
He's a good youngin'.
And Mill's a firecracker.
Oh,
cracked
she
that up.
is, and she's probably like 110 pounds of tiger meat and piano wire too.
Yeah, she's a little bitty thing.
Yeah, she'd probably whoop somebody's ass like a bobcat in a phone booth.
I'm just picturing that in my head. I would not want to get locked in a phone booth with a bobcat.
I would not want to be in a phone booth with a bobcat neither. You know what's so funny though? How many people don't even know what a damn phone booth is anymore?
No,
A lot of them.
I
A
can-
lot of them.
I
God.
can just.
What's
can just
that?
Imagine. I can just imagine that trapped in a phone booth, and I know exactly what Robby would say.
What?
Lord, shoot this thing!
Oh, shoot this thing. One of us got to have some relief.
Shooting here amongst us, one of us got to have some relief.
Man, yeah. Y'all on the show in the chat, thank y'all for staying with us. If y'all ain't never listened to this dude, listen to old country comedian from Yazoo, Mississippi.
Jerry Clower.
Jerry Clower, man.
Some of his comedy might not age well.
No, this is true. This is true.
Some of it might offend certain younger folks.
Yeah, it was a different time, y'all. It was a different time.
It was a very different time.
It was a different time.
But I will still never forget that. Lord, shoot this thing! That is one of my favorite bits of all time.
RL, Raynell, Udell.
Arnell, Raynell, WL, Linnell, WL, Claude, Eugene, and Clovis.
Forgot
I think
Marcel.
Marcel, yeah, I forgot Marcel.
Claude,
Marcel.
Eugene, and Clovis.
Whew. Lord. All right.
Uncle Versi drove that truck and they went right into there where the fire was at, and they all jumped out, and Aunt Pat was just telling them, "Woo, put it out over here. Woo, stomp this thing over here." And they were so happy that they put out the fire. They took up a offering for him, and they asked Uncle Versi, what you gonna do with the money? He said, "Well, the first thing I'm gonna do is give me some brakes on this truck."
Yeah, that one's funny too.
Lord.
Well, folks, I hope that really whets your appetite for Demon of Paladuro Canyon and Lakeview Man Dead of Winter.
Yes.
Demon of Paladuro. I have not heard from Adam yet, but I'm kind of expecting to anytime. He works kind of late. If I get the final image from him tonight, I will get it launched. If I don't, I'll get it out first thing in the morning. But again, just a reminder, when I get it uploaded completely to Amazon, it's going to take anywhere from 4 to 12 hours for Amazon to approve the Kindle version. And it's usually right around 24 hours before they approve the print. So Kindle will definitely be out first.
Hell yeah. Y'all go buy it. It's awesome. All right.
Don says Mel reminds me of my wife when she was younger. That's a good compliment. She's an awesome character. Bondoc says my defensive tactics instructor at my academy is about 5 feet tall. I'm 6'3" and 300 pounds. She'd spider monkey my ass.
That's the way Angie is. Not only was she
stab you.
Angie, not only was she spider monkey, but once she spider monkeyed you, she'd pull out a freaking blade and juke the shit out of you.
LT says, I can't read them both, and Robby's.
Lord.
Well, you'll have a little bit of time for. It's not like they're all coming out at the same time.
Well, yeah, unless you read like freaking Robby. Reads like 9 million words a damn minute, and he's like, what'd you think? And I'm like, dude, I meant like once upon a time.
What was the comment? For a guy that talks so damn pretty, you read like it's coming in on the Pony Express.
I know. It's true. It's true, man. I read slow. It takes me a while to comprehend things. So, yeah.
Yeah, because like I said, I'm only on chapter 8, so and I can only work on it when a couple hours a day. So DA's gonna get his out way before mine gets done. But
Well, I'll keep you motivated
Mm, mm, mm.
because yours is coming along nicely, dude.
All righty.
Arlen, I'm sorry to hear that, man. Arlen
Yeah.
said he lost his
Sorry,
wife
man.
14 months ago. I'm sorry about that, man. Roxanne says more, more. I can't give away too much.
Yep.
So tomorrow night, Doc, you gonna be with us tomorrow night for Redneck Reading Association?
I'm gonna do my best, brother.
Okay. Well, I'm thinking tomorrow night. How about we do Heart of Iron?
Heart of Iron.
What do y'all think? You guys, how's Heart of Iron sound for tomorrow night? Wait.
Damn, I understand more about the character Doc in the first couple of books. What are you trying to say there, AR?
Trisha Arnold, Ed Peak, both. Yes. All right, then we'll plan on doing Heart of Iron tomorrow. I'll send you guys both the completed manuscript and PDF. That way you've got the finalized copy to read it from. And we will probably break it down into 3 parts over the next 3 weeks. But we will start Heart of Iron tomorrow night. Well, since it is midnight, after midnight Robbie's time, we'll start winding things down. Really glad you guys are enjoying the new stories. Again, we're going to try to get Heart of Iron. We're going to try to get Demon of Paladuro Canyon out tonight if I get the final cover. If not, I'll get it out first thing tomorrow, and it will take a little time for Amazon to get it approved and out. But I will be announcing it on all of my channels and all of my media as soon as it is out and available. Folks on the Patreon, watch the Patreon. I'm going to put the first 2 chapters. That's a full additional chapter of what we just read. I'm going to put the prologue and the first 2 chapters of the new book up on the Patreon of Ghost of Winter. Ghost of Winter. I'll put the first 2 full chapters up of Ghost of Winter on the Patreon tonight for all of y'all who are members over there. So watch for that. It should be up probably in the next hour or so. But like I said, we're going to start winding things down. And one thing I want to remind y'all is a subject that is near and dear to my heart, and that, as you can tell, is the 22 a Day Foundation. And these aren't just words. I really, from the bottom of my heart, this is something that is very near and dear to me. We lose 22 veterans a day to suicide, and the cost on our first responders is just as high, if not higher. Folks, check on your friends and family who've been in the thick of it, who've been in the military, who've whatever the role was, it doesn't matter, because even whether they saw combat or not, they may have still seen things that haunt them. Because you never know when that one "Hey, are you okay?" text is the only thing that keeps them off that edge that day. And I want to be a little more honest than I normally am and tell you why it's near and dear to my heart. Is because I've been struggling with depression for a long time. Both these guys will tell you. If it hadn't been for them here last week, I was on the ropes. I mean, I was really struggling. Wednesday night, I kind of had a bad night, and that's why we didn't have a show Wednesday night. But between health issues and financial issues, and I'm not asking for anything but prayers, folks. So don't think I'm hinting at anything. If you guys don't mind praying for me, I would really appreciate that. But between the health issues and us trying to get our head back above water, it's been about all I could handle. And I really needed the time with Doc and Robby last week. And that's why I say check on your friends and family, because
Yep.
it's not always the things they saw when they were in uniform. Sometimes it's just life that gets
Yep.
the best of them.
Amen to that.
and
Amen.
we're all struggling in one way or another. And you know, pray for each other, pray for our country, pray for the people you care about. And sometimes, like I said, sometimes it's the people you think have it wired the tightest that
Yep.
need it the most.
And a lot of us hide it behind a big facade of humor.
Generally, my morbid sense of humor is what gets me through.
Yeah.
But you know, that's why this is particularly close to me. And I have buried a lot of friends under that folded flag, and it's not something that's ever easy. And folks, just don't take it for granted. You know, reach out to those folks, reach out to the people you care about, and let them know you care, and pray for those folks because God knows we all need it. And just like I'll be praying for y'all, I know there's a lot of folks going through a lot of things. I'm not going to mention any names, but you know, I talk to a lot of people offline. Obviously, we'll text message or sometimes on the phone. And I know a lot of y'all that are in the chat tonight are struggling with personal issues. There's a couple folks that just got out of the hospital, and other folks that are in the hospital. So pray for them, pray for each other, and again, pray for this country because things need to get a lot better for a lot of folks. And I think we're heading the right way. We just got to get there. So again, once again, remember the 22 a day foundation because at least 22 times a day, the hard days win. And let's see if we can get that number down to 0. Doc, you okay?
Yeah, I didn't know if I needed to sneeze again.
I thought you was getting misty eyed.
No, I'm trying to. I might sneeze again. I don't know. So,
but bless you.
Thank you. There, 3 times always. Mercy.
But thank you, folks, for everything. Thank you guys for being part of our lives and our family. I mean, we may be we're a fun family, but we put the fun in dysfunctional. And that's just how it is. I mean, if you've spent any time as a first responder in the military, you're going to have 2 things. Well, okay, 3 things. First thing's going to be bad knees, and then it's going to be some seriously messed up coping mechanisms and a very dark sense of humor.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's laugh so you don't cry. And folks, just like I said, reach out to those folks, even the ones you think don't need it, because you never know when they might be the one that needed it the most.
Amen.
And we're gonna close her out with a toast. And it's all the more poignant because it reminds me of some of the folks that we have lost along the way, some good friends and family members. And it's an old Irish drinking song called "The Parting Glass," and y'all should listen to that song sometime if you haven't already, because it's a beautiful song and it's a haunting tune, but it's an amazing sentiment. And the quote is this: "But since it fell into my lot that I should rise and you should not, I'll gently rise and softly call. Good night and joy be to you all." Good night, everybody. Slán Jamal, and we will see you tomorrow night.
Thank you for joining us. Catch us again Wednesday.